What? What is this? What's going on? What is this? What time is it? What time is it? Can anyone fill me in on what time it is? I'm just curious. I'm just curious. What time? No, I don't know. I don't think my phone's broken. I don't know. What time do you guys think it is? What's going on? Morj is on time? I am not on time. That is not true. I am not on time. I am early. I feel like I almost feel as though I should be allowed to dock some minutes, dock some points off of my late penalties chart. Right? I feel, okay, obviously that's not fair, because then I could cheat the system. I still feel as though I want to. I still feel like I should be allowed to. Yo, Morj, quick one. Luffy or Kizaru? It doesn't matter. I'm faster than both of them. I arrived 2 minutes, at least 1 minute ahead of schedule. Right? That puts me faster than light speed. If Kizaru would arrive exactly on time, I'd somehow surpass that. I'm the fastest man on the planet. Faster than the Flash. Faster than Luffy. Faster than Kizaru. I officially scale above them in terms of speed. Fading Face says, Morj, how's the mob watch going? Really good. I just finished season 2. Yesterday, I had a free Sunday. I had this wacky plan in mind to watch/binge all the rest of it. I had 2 seasons to go. I got through one more season. So I got through second season. I'm really enjoying Mob Psycho so far. I think I like the characters. Love the fights and the animation. I can't believe I almost didn't watch it because I didn't like the idea of telekinesis as a main power. It's so much fun. It's not that different than like having ki or like whatever, like Dragon Ball abilities. It's basically the same thing with just a bit more variety. I don't know. Love the fights. I'm enjoying the characters. I think we're hitting a point where it feels remarkably similar in terms of how the author does setups. Let me see. The Mob Psycho author, it is one. Yeah, okay, so he has a knack for very, very similar types of setups in terms of he likes having his super overpowered main character and then kind of building out a set of, like, we already have the equivalent of the S-class heroes here, which are basically the side roster of characters who are all strong in their own way, but nowhere near mob, obviously, and they're kind of becoming this, they become this little group, this squad, pretty much, of characters, and we're going to be fighting, we watch all of their mini-fights and everything like that, but the way they're treated is generally, it's like, okay, how to explain this? One likes doing this thing where there's two worlds existing at the same time. So there's the world of like mob and the types of characters that he fights, right? Like the this is, I guess, minor sport. Like there's this whole world where there's these overpowered characters, right? Kind of like the equivalent of in One Punch Man. There's like, you got Saitama, and then you've got characters only he can fight, like Garo and Boros and shit like that, and he just exists in his own world here. And then you've got all the rest of the S-class, and they fight other shit like, I don't know, fucking, like Black Sperm, or like Homeless Emperor, or like the Dracula dude and stuff like that. And they have their own fights, but it's just in a different universe than wherever the big boy fights are. Like there's just there's like a divide, pretty much. So for whatever reason, one really likes that sort of setup. I'd say the one and only thing that I'd say that One Punch Man has over Mob Psycho so far, I think comedy-wise it's about even. I'd say Mob's maybe even a little bit fun. Mob Psycho's funnier than One Punch Man, actually. Probably by a little bit. I'd say, it's probably around even. I'd say around even. I think One Punch Man relies on the same gag very frequently. Mob Psycho doesn't. I'd say the one thing One Punch Man has over Mob Psycho is that the S-class heroes are more interesting as side characters, I think, over time. Whereas now we get the claw rejects. Yeah, we kind of get the claw rejects as basically our version of that, and they're funny, but like they all blend together a little bit. Anyway, but I'm liking Mob Psycho a lot more. Let's see, let me catch up here. Okay, Attilio! Thanks a lot. Hi, Morj. I'm seeing her frequently now, a little too much. The hotels are expensive, but she really nicely pays for half the check and is an anime fan. Wait, what? The hotels? Why the hotels? Why do you need hotels? You can't go to each other's places? Yeah, I'm on time. Everyone, let's all get over it. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Fake Lince's third season kind of slow. I heard the third season is the best one. Or not the best. I heard the final arc. No, actually, I didn't hear any of that. I heard Mob Psycho has a good ending. Right? So is it just slow to get rolling or something like that? I just heard it has a good ending. Anything with a good ending, that is encouraging for me. She's really nice, pays for half the check, and is an anime fan. You know what? That's a keeper. That's a keeper, man. Attilio, we're all happy for Attilio. We're all happy for Attilio. Knut Worgen says the plot only works when the main character isn't in it. Yeah, like this latest second season finale, Mob went to sleep for the majority of it. They're probably freaky behind their parents' backs. Season 3 is great. Did I hear Kingdom? So let me tell you guys the trajectory. I think after Mob Psycho, I'm going to finish reading Sakamoto Days. I just got it started. And then after Sakamoto Days, here, let me show you guys. After Sakamoto Days is... Here we go. You guys can still spend points on the late penalties. It's just that you guys don't get any new points this time. It's been a while since we've had a stream where you guys can't add in any points. Sakamoto Days. Okay, no, so this is changing slightly. Finish Mob Psycho. Read Sakamoto Days. And then Kingdom or Vagabond, and then Kagurabachi is kind of the plan. I think that's the current trajectory. Kingdom has a lot of great leaders. I believe that, because Kingdom's a bunch of, like, it's Kingdom's plan. I mean, Kingdom's story is about a hero who wants to become the greatest general, right? So the tricky thing that threw me about Kingdom's hero, his dream is to become the greatest general. I'll keep this up just so you guys can see. His dream is to become the greatest general, at least towards the beginning. But it seemed as though at least in the first arc, it seemed as though he's just like a fighter. Like, he's just a warrior. So, does he become a good... Well, I guess you don't have to spoil me, but does general pretty much mean, like, just being the strongest fighter in the country? Or, like, actually being, like, the greatest, like, war commander or something? You know what I mean? Hendra Anami says we're saving our points for Bollywood dance. I don't even know what you guys are saving for exactly. Might be in defense of Wano video. For stream, drop video, not One Piece. Yeah, I could do all of those though. Hassan Kesar says Kingdom does a trio dynamic much better than One Piece, Cade, Luffy, Law. I feel like you would love that. I think I would really enjoy that. One Piece is not the most suited for a trio dynamic because we spent the whole first half of the series focusing pretty much exclusively on the Straw Hats, right? So we focused exclusively on this one main cast of characters. So then trying to heavily change that to make it also center around like a main character's rivals as well, it doesn't work as well because that's not what the story's built around early on, you know? Yeah, I don't know which one you guys are gonna push for. Have you seen Peak Shonen Black Clover yet? Yeah, I'm not caught up on Black Clover manga technically because I read through Spade Kingdom arc, and then I read some of the current arc, and then I just put it on pause because I want to be able to binge the rest of it. That's pretty much it. And Aranami says Oda refuses to even do a duo dynamic. He favors Luffy way too much to ever give him an actual rivals lol. Yeah, that's the tricky thing, which is that One Piece is a series where Oda really, really, really I think out of all the traditional shonen that I can think of, Oda favors Oda favors his protagonist the most out of any of them. In that, like, even in a series like Naruto, right? You can go many, many, many arcs where Naruto's not like he'll get fights and stuff, but like he's not the one who's always defeating the main big bad or whatever, or like the final villain. One Piece is the only series I can think of where literally every single arc, I guess Bleach, but even with Bleach, it's tricky because, yeah, like One Piece, it's kind of like every single arc, it's just Luffy is the strongest protagonist, clearly, and he's always going to defeat the big bad. Bleach, Ichigo does always be the one to defeat the big bad, but generally for the majority of the arc or storyline, he's not the strongest protagonist. And, like, things kind of have to come together in certain ways for him to win in the end. Yeah, but One Piece, it's like Luffy will always be the strongest on the good guy's side, and he will always be the one to save the day. So, and it's arc after arc after arc. So it's very hard to imagine him doing like an actual legitimate rival thing. Hashim gives us his OMG more just so early. He's actually reading normal chat lol. Let's get the stream likes to 50. Let's get the stream likes to 50. Once we get the stream likes to 50, we're going to start our tier list. I initially thought about doing this list around best One Piece kings. The idea came from fucking King Harold. So I was kind of just, I'm curious. We're still trying to figure out what type of king was King Harold. So initially I wanted to do best One Piece kings. But I thought that was maybe a little bit boring. So I was like, what if we include like pirate captains as well? Liam S 137, thanks for the 2 thoughts on David Lynch. Also thanks for the videos. Hey, thanks for your first super ever. So Mulholland Drive is easily one of my favorite movies of all time. Other ones I've seen are just I guess the big 3 of his movies: Eraserhead, Mulholland Drive, Blue Velvet. And I watched a good chunk of the first season of Twin Peaks. But then I dropped it because I got spoiled. I was just reading stuff online and I got spoiled on I got spoiled on the murder mystery to some degree. And it spoiled it in a way, like, I know that the way it works is that, like, the actual, like, solving the murder isn't, like, the important part, I guess. But it just soured me on it enough that I just kind of need the question marks to remain in, I mean, the question marks will keep coming, but I still just like the aspect of trying to solve a whodunit to some degree, so then I dropped Twin Peaks. I don't know how the revival has gone or anything like that, but Twin Peaks was a really good show. But yeah, Mulholland Drive, phenomenal movie, probably one of my, I don't really have a set ranking or something, but I think Once Upon a Time I would have said it's like top 5 movies for me. I don't know if, I'd have to rewatch it now, see if I still feel that way. Eraserhead is just bizarre, so it's probably a very extreme starting point. I still don't think I've seen a movie quite like Eraserhead. Last Year in Marienbad? No, that's really not like Eraserhead. I mean, it kind of is, but Eraserhead's just its own brand of weird. Blue Velvet is probably his most traditional type of movie if you want to get into something. Some David Lynch movies. But I think Mulholland Drive is his best one, and I think it captures... I think Mulholland Drive is probably the best... I think by far, I'd say by far, the best representation of how a lot of our... like, of how dreams are often a reflection in a lot of ways of a lot of the waking thoughts that we have and what we're experiencing in real life. So I definitely recommend Mulholland Drive to everyone, but I would say if you want a more traditional film, then try Blue Velvet. I think I tried watching Inland Empire, but I stopped, or no, Lost Highway, and then I stopped after a little bit. I think just time-wise I couldn't finish it. Yeah, but David Lynch, phenomenal director. I think all-time great American film director. Just a little too weird to ever be like hardcore mainstream. But yeah, if you want to try surrealist films or whatever, David Lynch is kind of the king of that. Virgil Hawkins says, Morj, you know series with a lot of great leaders? Haikyuu. Does Hinata ever turn into a great leader? I don't know. Goomba Boomba, thanks for being a member for 28 months, man. Thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 28 months. No break after next chapter. We haven't gotten 4 chapters in a row for years. Place is not there yet, but I imagine Momo will be up there by the end of the series. Yeah, okay, so, well, Momo's in my list. So I handmade this list before stream. Because I was like, I'm not going to do that thing again where I clumsily crop out a bunch of images while you guys are watching. I made this before it. I already made it, so don't worry about that. We've got a list. I was a little lazy with the list because I didn't include every pirate captain. I didn't include every king, just because I was kind of like, well, I can't do every... A lot of the characters, we don't have enough information to really make a judgment call. Shit, I didn't put dragon in here. I gotta put dragon in. Dragon's on the thumbnail, but not in here. Did I put dragon in? No, I didn't put dragon in. Okay, let me get dragon in there. Yeah, but we're getting 4 chapters in a row, which is shocking. And any other time, I'd be so happy. I'd be very, very happy that we're getting 4 chapters in a row. This is the one time that I'm not going to be the happiest about it, just because I was everything seemed set for 3 chapters in a row, right? Like the usual. It didn't seem like there was any break next week or anything like that. It seemed like there was a break coming next week, right? We're going to get this week's chapter and then a break next week. So we basically planned a little bit of an excursion, not this weekend, following weekend, where we'd be out Friday through Sunday. And then it was revealed we're doing 4 chapters in a row, and I'm like, fuck, why this one time? And it's actually going to be I'm going to be driving a bit, so it's going to be very hard to squeeze in certain things like stream, so I'll just have to get a little bit creative with it. I'm overall happy. Well, no, I mean, it's great that we're getting 4 chapters. I'm curious as to what prompted it. And I think it's a good sign overall for Oda's, health, productivity. He's trying to probably make up a little bit of his, slow rate of release last year, or at least this in recent times. Yeah, I got dragon in there now. Yeah, it was just the timing was terrible. All right. Chris Morales says, how late was he today? How about everyone tell him how late I was? Everyone speak up. Tell him how late I was. Plastic Hole says, Moist Critical take on One Piece is shit. What did Moist Critical say? What did he say? A lot of these bigger content creators are getting into One Piece recently, like Speed, right? Like Moist Critical. He said Marineford's still #1 arc. Yeah, I mean, that's not a weird take. Oh, he likes Yamato? What the fuck? Why does he like Yamato? All right, I don't know what to say. He said Wano's still good. That's the point. Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna leave this alone. I can't get into it. All right, we're gonna keep going. We're gonna keep going. Okay. All right, everybody. Let's get stream list up to 50. Once we get up to 50, we'll start. He said Yamato good. LMAO. What was good about her? Tamur Iqbal, thanks a lot. Excited for this Super Bowl halftime show. Kendrick calling Drake a pedophile on the biggest stage is going to be hilarious. I'm never excited for the Super Bowl halftime show. I don't know why people get really excited for it. It's just a song. It's just them singing. In general, I don't care that much for the Super Bowl. So we actually planned our trip for that same weekend, not realizing that it was the Super Bowl weekend until we were messaged about a Super Bowl party. So, yeah. What do I generally like about this? Because I'm not big into football. I usually don't really care about the artist. I think the halftime show is really, really overhyped. I think the ads are fun. I think the ads are always fun. Oh, Chris Morales says he used One Pace. Okay, he used One Pace, so maybe that explains. I mean, the plot of Wano is still terrible, but he used One Piece, so maybe that explains something. All right. Most Critical made a Wano video earlier than Morj. Anime Wano is a whole other arc. Yeah, I think anime, like Wano probably has the biggest differences in the anime over anything else. Light Knight 2 says, best leader in One Piece is Gaimon. He runs a whole island literally on his own and pays tribute to no celestial scrubs. That is true. That is true. But that's like saying like Sanji and Zeph on that abandoned rock runs a whole island on his own and pays no tribute. He liked the scabbards. Wow. For those of you who don't know, I watched the Moist Critical videos way. I don't know if you guys know this. He got started doing videos on like Oregon Trail that were really fucking funny. And this was like a decade ago, at least, more than a decade ago probably. And I saw those and those were really funny. And then fast forward a decade, and then I find out that this dude is now like an actual internet personality or something like that. Before he was just like this dude who made funny like videos with his like just little video game commentary type videos. Is Crocodile on here? I think I have Crocodile on here. Shit, I don't fucking have Crocodile on here. Oh my god, I gotta put Crocodile on. Okay, quickly looking at this while we're figuring this out. Who else do I put on here that's not currently on here? Fading Fizz says, yeah, he's been around for a fat minute. Yeah. Yeah, I should put in Law, Kid, Crocodile. No, I got Law. I think I have Kid. I need Crocodile. I need who else? Tell me who I'm missing. I'm not going to put certain characters like Roger where we haven't seen much of their leadership. I went with kind of we need to see a certain minimum level of what they do. Oh, he said Arlong Park sucks. Damn, that's kind of crazy. Is King Riku not on there? Riku's there. Ace system. We don't really see enough of his leadership. I guess you could go by the Ace manga. I'm going to be honest, I don't remember enough of the Ace manga. I remember a lot of the Ace manga post him running into Whitebeard, but not him as a captain in the early chapters. Is Arlong there? Yeah, Arlong's here. Iceberg. I got Sengoku in there somewhere. I swear Sengoku's in here. Right? Shit, do I not have Sengoku? Yeah, I got Sengoku. He's just got white hair. I got Sengoku. So far I'm just seeing Crocodile. I can do Crocodile. I can do Iceberg. I should have Cobra in there. Cobra's in here. I don't have Vivi. Do I not have Vivi? I don't have fucking Vivi. I should get a Cobra, Iceberg. Okay, here, let me put it. Cobra, Iceberg. No, not Cobra. Crocodile. Vivi, Iceberg, Koza. I got Don Krieg. You don't understand. Vivi was literally, she almost made the thumbnail. So I'm surprised I forgot to put her. I almost had her in the thumbnail. But then I was like, let me put flashier characters. Zolden, thanks for the Pirate King tier member for 17 months. Hey, I think a fun stream idea to do right before the second session of One Piece live action. Oh yeah, One Piece live action is coming in 2025, which is fucking awesome news. Could be discussing must-keep scenes and plot points and more cuttable moments that aren't necessary. Hope life's been good. That's a great point. Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that's a phenomenal point. And life has been good. Here. Shamrock, Garling, Emu. We haven't seen enough of them. Hudge Rudin, I would argue, still haven't seen enough. Caesar. I can throw in Caesar. Lola is actually in here, funnily enough. I do have Lola. Also, let's get the stream likes to 50 because we're almost there. 5 elders collectively, They kind of just talk to each other. Mostly just talking to each other. I think I have Dalton in there. I have Smoker in there. Okay, so right now I'm putting in Crocodile, Vivi, Iceberg, Koza, Caesar. And Arnami says, if you're arguing you haven't seen enough of their leadership qualities, L. Ragan needs to be removed. The thing is, we've seen him in a lot in terms of talking, like making decisions, talking to his subordinates, coordinating stuff. He himself just hasn't really done jack shit. So we can dock him points for that. Like, we've seen a lot of him. Hazard Gibson says Zoro and Sanji as stand-in leaders for Luffy's absence. I don't want to get into that stuff. Honestly, like, I think I would rather do characters that regularly have to lead or are shown leading their own groups. You could argue Zoro and Sanji, yeah, technically that happens somewhat frequently. I'd be more inclined to put fucking Frankie or Jinbei. Just because the problem with Jinbei is we really didn't see him much as the leader of the Sun Pirates. Frankie, I think I should put Frankie because he essentially, for the entirety of the Water 7 Enies Lobby storyline, he was shown in his capacity as leader of the Frankie family for a good section of that. I think I have Buggy, right? I got Buggy in there. Buggy's here. I'm going to go ahead and roll with this. I'm going to go ahead and roll with this. A great man named Liu says Sanji does regularly lead. So one of the reasons I don't want to put Zoro and Sanji is because the Strats aren't their dedicated subordinate group. So we are going to be judging leadership like a little bit more holistically. So certain things like, do they inspire loyalty from their subordinates? Things like that. Like what are their subordinates willing to do for them? Things like that. It doesn't really apply as much to Zoro and Sanji because the Strats aren't their group. You know what I mean? That's something I can judge for someone like Capone Beige, but not so much Zoro and Sanji, We could judge, like, what's their leadership, like, their decision-making or stuff like that, or how much they're willing to do for their followers, but it's not quite the same. Kinemon, I would argue the Scabbards become his group later. So I could actually put Kinemon. I actually have Kinemon, yeah. Magellan. I could put Magellan. That's a good point. Magellan's a great point. All right, we're going to go with this. I have to draw some lines, otherwise it's just we can spill on, like, otherwise I can get into, like, Usopp as the leader of the Usopp pirate crew. It just gets to be too much after a certain point, Moria, I feel like I put Moria, right? I got Moria in there somewhere. Tell me I got Moria. I guess I don't have Moria. Oh, no, I got Moria. Here, I'm going to pin this real quick just for myself to remember. Okay. Yeah. All right. All right, we'll start with Crocodile. Yeah, let's start with Crocodile. We'll just go down the list. Damn, Vivi's glow up from pre-time skip to post-time skip is kind of insane. Okay. What's a simple picture of her face? Looking at the camera. So we're going to be deciding a bit of the criteria right now as well. Because so it's not going to be based on how good of a leader the story tells us. It's going to be more so like it's going to be a bit more holistic. So for example, the story tells us that Luffy's a great leader. He's not. In real world standards, you would never want Luffy in charge of jack shit. By real world standards, you would you literally would not want to put Luffy in charge of like a pot of soup. Like in some specific situations that One Piece values a lot, Luffy is portrayed as a good leader. But I don't think, I think if you vote Luffy to run or be the captain of any sort of ship, and like there's not a single thing that you would ever want Luffy to be in charge of in real life, right? Not a company, not a country, not a fucking not a ship, frankly. And not even, I don't know, not even like a Boy Scout troop or something like that. So we're going to be judging more so based on how they're portrayed as a leader in the story, what qualities they show, and apply that to, okay, would this make them a great leader in real life, you know? Or actually, I don't know if we'd apply it to real life, but just like kind of take some of the like try and actually apply some practicality to it, you know? Nine. All right. And we got Frankie still. Oh, this is, man, pre-time skip Frankie's design was so good. What a cool design. What has Oda done to this, man? And then we got, oh, we're almost at 50. Let's get stream likes up a tiny bit more, and then we can start the stream. All right, here we go. Now we're cooking. 51 images. All right, good shit. Nice big stream we got here. Or big tier list we got here. All right. Shit, why doesn't this show jack shit? Okay, I don't know what's what. Why isn't this showing my icons? Okay, and then what's 43? Okay. Is Spandam already in here? Yeah. Okay, so I don't need Spandam. So I can... Alright, we just have an extra. Alright, good enough. Alright, let's roll. Henchme976 says, Luffy's a good platoon leader, but not a top-level leader. I don't know if he'd even be a good platoon leader. Like, if you were in the military and you are assigned your platoon leader, I don't know how it works, just talking however, right? But if I'm in the military and I'm put in the platoon and and then my platoon leader walks up and it's fucking Luffy and he's like, hey, so I am incapable of following any sort of plan that is handed down to me. I have poor memory of anybody's names. And I've a complete disability to discern any sort of disguise. I'm not good at thinking of strategy. I don't really do that. I can help you chase your dreams. I'd be like, that's okay, man. I just don't want to die. He's not a good leader in real life context. He's written to be a good leader in One Piece because the story demands that Luffy's values in One Piece be prioritized, which is being kind-hearted, empathetic, strong-willed, which is important stuff. But the key pieces he's missing, which is ultimately a brain, is probably the most important thing for... Not the most... It's one of the key things a leader needs. Also, I'll eat our entire food supply. Yeah, Luffy will also eat all rations. Yeah. Plastic Cola says Luffy would be a good team leader in any sports. I agree with that. I think he'd really get everyone pumped up. It's sports. Lots of times you just need a good emotional leader at the end of the day, because he doesn't need to be a coach. He wouldn't be a good coach. He's good at he's good at getting the best out of people, though. Like, good at getting the best out of Momonosuke, Bonnie, etc. So he could even be a good coach. Anything that's based around emotional leadership exclusively and no brain power needed, Luffy can be a good leader. So I'm not saying he's going to be in like D, but he's not going to be in fucking S or A or something. So here's how we're going to do it. All right, let me do a little criteria thing. Yeah, I'll just make a new thing. Call it criteria. All right. Leadership criteria. It's too big. Note. Note. Not based on if the series says they are a good leader. This is by actual standards. All right. All right. So what do we think is a good leader? Let's start with that. What do we think is a good leader? I think a good leader inspires confidence from subordinates, is empathetic, good decision maker, calm/confident in a crisis, capable of thinking ahead/strategy, confidence from subordinates. I'd say loyalty is a different thing. Inspires loyalty from subordinates. Be a good listener. Yeah. Takes advice. Being a good listener, that can fall into being a good decision maker, because ultimately you want them to listen to make good decisions, right? Vitamin Gar says, doesn't peep at their child in the bath. That was weird in retrospect. Intelligent, competent, tactical. We do need competent to be fleshed out somewhat. I would add intelligent. Intelligent. You're right. I am mixing qualities with impact. But to be fair, we do need a little bit of both. Because, I think this is their capability, right? This is their capability. I think that, because, yeah, you do need these qualities to be able to create that impact. So, for example, intelligent and empathetic are qualities. This is kind of the result. This is a quality that results in this. No, because this can be independent of how it affects the subordinates. Calm/confident in the crisis. Godness says, I feel like there should be a designation between loyalty to the person and loyalty to a person, or loyalty to an organization. I'll say loyalty in them from subordinates. Yeah, do we need... I think empathetic is important, but the result is inspiring loyalty, etc. So at the end of the day, it's arguable that you don't need empathy to inspire confidence and loyalty. You can inspire confidence and loyalty without being empathetic. You do need intelligence, but that's in order to make good decisions and think ahead. This is tricky. Zoldan, thanks for the 10. The fact that Hadrudin being disowned from the royalty for being the son of a non-pure giant was revealed the same chapter as Shamrock could be foreshadowing for Shanks' relationship with his family. That's a fantastic point, Zoldan. Holy shit. Yeah, that is a fantastic point. That's a potential little parallel that I didn't even think about. Great points. That's interesting. It's an interesting point. Keyboard Hug says 3 factors. Kindbase says the whole point of leadership is to accomplish a goal, so we should really start with the goal first. I disagree because while that's true, I think that I want to value soft things as well. So, for example, if the whole point is to accomplish a goal, then maybe you get that goal, but everybody's really unhappy with it, unhappy at the end of the day in terms of how they get there, right? So, for example, let's say you're working at a company and you're the boss, so you're a good leader if you're able to like drive everybody at the end of the day to accomplish your quarter's goals. But if everybody's really unhappy with it at the end of the day and you're the only one that's happy, I still think that that's not necessarily a good leader. So I would qualify this to makes subordinates happy. How about that? Makes subordinates happy. And then on top of that, in some situations, like if there's just one goal, like seize an enemy base or find the One Piece or something like that, right? I think that's different from being a long-term leader where you're having to steer the ship over, let's say, 4 years of a presidency or something like that, right? Like I think those are different. I think just a singular goal is not quite just a singular goal is not quite the only metric. I could cut intelligent, because ultimately what we need them to be is good decision maker can mean multiple things, right? Decisive makes intelligent. So you need them to be decisive, but you need them to make intelligent decisions, right? No, I'd say makes good decisions at the end. And that is different than decisive, because decisiveness comes to how long it takes you to make a good decision. Is able to make a decision confidently. Yeah, you need them to be decisive, and you need them to be actually making good decisions, right? I'm going to add intelligent because, so for example, I think Luffy makes good decisions. So it's tricky because Luffy makes good decisions very frequently in the story, but it's often after being dissuaded a lot from bad decisions by his subordinates. And you could argue, well, that means that it's good that he takes good input, but at the same time, at a certain point, if a leader is basically needing everybody around him to basically, like if his first instinct is always really bad and he needs everybody around him to really reel him in, force him, redirect him to a path, then that's not a great leader. He's just being corralled, right? And ultimately it's a slower decision-making process and inefficient because his first instinct is always wrong. Performs under pressure, I said calm and confident in crisis. Isaiah Davis, thanks for the 5. When Kaido said, seems like you couldn't be Joy Boy either, was Kaido expecting the god of destruction interpretation, or only Joy Boy can kill me? So it's interesting because Kaido's not technically referring to Nika. He's not technically referring to Nika. I don't know if Kaido understands exactly the Nika myth and the Joy Boy myth exactly, or that they're one and the same, because it's two separate things. The Giants don't believe in Joy Boy because Joy Boy is a person that existed some time back. I'm very curious why Kaido specifically believed in Joy Boy and not Nika, because that opens its own whole can of worms. And when Luffy turned into that form, the Nika form, it's not that Kaido was like, aha, you became Nika. He was uncertain about what that form was. I don't know how in tune Kaido is with the mythology of the giants and with the what is it, what is it called again, the Hali religion. I don't know how in tune he is with all that. I think Kaido was really waiting for somebody to be the next Joy Boy, which is tied more so to the dawn of the world prophecy. And then Nika is something that ties into that in a broader sense in terms of the religion about the world being destroyed multiple times with the return of Nika, right? So honestly, you can kind of think of it in 3 levels, right? So what we knew at the base level for the longest time was, okay, the next Pirate King, right? Okay, who's going to be the next Pirate King? Who's going to find the One Piece? This is like a 20-year long, not prophecy exactly, but like will, right? That was what was there at first, right? So the idea of who's the next Roger, who's the next Pirate King, right? Then, as the story progressed, it begins to expand, and it's like, it's not just about the One Piece, it's about the dawn of the world. And that's something that's going back 800 years. We've been waiting 800 years for the dawn of the world. It just happens to be tied to the One Piece. And the dawn of the world will happen when we find who the next Joy Boy is. And it's like, oh shit. Okay, so we're not trying to find who the next Joy Boy is. Luffy's the next Joy Boy. He's going to bring the dawn of the world. Okay? And now we're kind of expanding that even further to be like, no, there's this whole religion around the concept of the sun god Nika, right? The sun god Nika. And forget the 800 years thing. The world's actually been destroyed multiple times over the last, like, God knows how many, 1,500, 1,600 years or something. And then this sun god Nika appears multiple times. So this dawn of the world thing, this might not even be the first time that we're getting the dawn of the world. This is a cycle. So it's kind of like expanding our concept of what this whole prophecy, it all reaches the same endpoint, right? Find the One Piece, bring the dawn, be the Nika that brings the change to the world, right? And it fits into these different roles. Like, Luffy's now going to be playing 3 roles in the sense that he's going to be the next Pirate King. That was what we were always told about. He's going to be Joy Boy, which is the answer to the dawn of the world, which we were told about. And then finally, he's going to be doing it as Nika, which is the sun god that is the most ancient of all of these myths, right? So it's a very interesting way that Oda's kind of like Lego blocked it out. From my view, if I'd have to reread lines from Wano, but I don't remember Kaido really knowing that much about Nika himself. I think Kaido's more focused on the dawn of the world and Joy Boy aspect of things, which is kind of level 2 of this whole lore breakdown. Does that make sense? Calvin Nguyen says, I think Kaido's understanding of Joy Boy begins and ends at a really strong guy from a long time ago. I think that sounds accurate. Intelligent, makes good decisions. I'm going to keep intelligent. I think you do need the intelligence because ultimately you can make good decisions if everybody else forces you to make a good decision, like Luffy's crew does to him. But it's always like pulling teeth and it's always like inefficient decision making, right? I'm gonna say cares for subordinates. Yeah, I'm just gonna start separate. I know we can get into the weeds of like how much is goal oriented or impact oriented versus how much is just traits, but I think that I'm just gonna shoot and say these are things that I think a good leader needs to be able to. I think they need to be able to inspire confidence from subordinates. I think they need to be able to inspire loyalty in them from subordinates. But I also think they need to be care for the subordinates, make subordinates happy. I think they need to be intelligent. Think they need to be able to make decisions confidently and with reasonable swiftness. I think they need to make good decisions when they do make those decisions. And in crises, I think they need to be planning ahead. I think in crises, they need to be calm and confident. Hesitant says, if the series says they're good leaders, then it's canon more. Your subjective opinion on what makes a good leader isn't canon or objectively true idea of leadership. But the story's idea of what's a good leader isn't the real world idea of what's a good leader. It's just Oda can claim anyone's a good leader if he wants to. That doesn't make them a good leader. We're not talking about what's canon. If we're talking about what's canon, then we just read the story and see what's in the story, right? Spandam, bad leader. Luffy, great leader. Like, it's pretty ABC, you know? That's why it's more fun to actually try and judge their qualities as a leader by not Oda's... Because, like, at the end of the day, One Piece is not the most cerebral story, and Oda is a very feels-based guy, so he will always value feel-good things at the end of the day over anything else. So it's kind of just like, he's made it clear that kindness is the most important quality that a leader needs to have, which is true. I think that, true objectively, subjectively, right? But I think most would agree that kindness is a quality that we would want a leader of ours to have. But it's Oda's world view that, like, I'm saying, let's step back from Oda's very, very, like, almost like fantasy worldview of you just need a good heart and that makes you a leader, which is a lot of what Oda basically, like, if you read King Riku's explanation of what a good leader is and, like, what Dressrosa basically paints out a good leader to be, it's just being a good guy. It's just having a kind heart, which I think is a little bit shallow. So I'm saying let's actually, let's talk about it from a bit more of a critical standpoint, right? And we're not saying I'm not saying this is objective criteria. We're going back and forth on what is the correct criteria. But we can land on something that we can all generally somewhat agree on. And then that's the fun of making a tier list together, which is we're kind of just workshopping what we think is best. But it's not going to be like an objective truth, Keyboard Hug says Oda is very idealistic. Yes, he's very idealistic. There's very rarely like actual logic or practicality applied to a lot of what Oda has happen in One Piece, It's kind of just like, well, Riku's a good guy, so the nation will just be good. And it's like, why is the nation good? He said, like, it's even a whole plot point. It's like, well, the nation was very poor under Riku, but everyone was just happy. It's like, what? Why? It's like, they just were because Riku was so good. And it's like, okay, so it's more like a fairy tale logic, right? Like just what a fairy tale kind of story would be. I'm not saying fairy tale the manga, I'm saying fairy tales in general, which is okay, but I'm saying, like, the fun of making the tier list, like, we know which ones Oda says are bad. This one's bad. This one's bad, right? Like, this one's bad, right? So but that's not a fun tier list. So, like, let's try and talk about it a bit. Aspiring, thanks for the 5. Who is this new silhouette man awaiting the strides? Could it be Gaban, Shiki, or a new character? Also, could Dory and Brogy be hype tools for Shamrock? I think Dory and Brogy are not... let me start with Dory and Brogy. I don't think Dory and Brogy are effective hype tools at this point because they're not really... There's not that much hype attached to them at this point. We saw them already against the Gorosei, and I don't think anybody at any point was thinking, holy shit, the Gorosei, like, Dory and Brogy are having trouble handling the Gorosei. That means the Gorosei are really strong. It was Luffy, right? Like, ultimately we're looking at Luffy, how Luffy's faring against Valkyrie, Saturn, Jupiter, and then through Luffy we're kind of getting the idea of how strong are these Gorosei supposed to be, right? So Luffy's really like, Dory and Brogy were there to help, and so they had some good moments where it's like, oh shit, they blocked Valkyrie's attack and stuff. But I don't think there was ever a point where it was like, oh my god, they did that to Dory and Brogy? Oh my god, how is that possible? Like, the moments that hyped the Gorosei, frankly, the single moment that probably hyped the Gorosei the most was Luffy hitting Valkyrie with attacks that were working very well on Kaido, and it not working at all on Valkyrie, and actually hurting Luffy instead. And he did that multiple times, once with the Red Rock, and then once with Gear 5th even. So I think that was probably the most effective at hyping the Gorosei. Let's get the stream likes to 100 real quick. Let's get the stream likes to 100. Okay. So we have our criteria. Does anybody strongly disagree with these? This is just general stuff. So a lot of it is basically subordinate-centric, like how well are they able to do things, like how much can they get out of their subordinates, how much the subordinates put faith in them, are they able to make things good for their subordinates, happy for their subordinates, but at the same time, are they able to take charge, make decisions, make intelligent, informed decisions, think ahead, strategize, and when the going gets tough, are they able to remain calm and confident? I think those are the main things I'm thinking at the moment. I think a lot of this is basically if somebody's in charge, let's say somebody was my boss, right? I would want to feel confident in them. I would want to feel cared for and heard. Makes subordinates happy, cares for subordinates, makes subordinates, or listens. Good listener. So I took that off earlier, but I think that's a good thing to keep back, because now I'm thinking, what would I want a leader to do? So I'll want all that, but I'd also want them to be decisive and intelligent. I'd want to feel like they make good decisions, and and are thinking ahead, and if there's a crisis coming up, that they are able to stay the ship. All right. Keyboard Hug says I'd split it into 3 categories: vision and strategy, empathy and emotional intelligence, integrity and accountability. Integrity and accountability, that's its own whole ballgame. This is its own whole thing. So, funnily enough, in college, I was part of a program that was not just like a class. It was like a scholars program, like a thing that you're, like an additional thing on top of your classes, called public leadership. Okay? And with public leadership, I don't know how, like, I'm realizing kind of the vacuum that we've just been sucked into, the black hole, but because public leadership, it was a 2-year program, and I cannot tell you how many times we had this discussion or some sort of a workshop thing or some sort of a essay thing on trying to make a case or like define what really is it to be a good leader. Like, what are the good qualities? What should you strive? Blah, 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 stuff like that, right? That's something that they made a 2-year course out of. So ultimately, we're not going to 2-year program out of. So it's multiple classes per semester. Ultimately, we are not going to come up with a great, comprehensive, ideal, platonic ideal of a good leader in 5 minutes before we start this tier list. That's not going to happen. So I'm just going to roll with this, kind of with the mentality of like, what would I want from, like, if somebody's captain of the ship or something, or somebody's my boss at work, political leader of my country or something. I'm going to add empathy. I think empathy in general. Because not just for subordinates, but for the how your things impact people that are not part of your group as well. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just jotting down the things that I would like to see from the person if somebody was in charge of me. That's what I would go ahead and say. Henchme976 says, sounds like fluff to extract tuition to me. I mean, it's not additional money or something. It's just like a program that would hypothetically make your resume look better. It's kind of like honors courses or whatever. It's just a program that makes your resume look better, supposedly, when you're applying to jobs post-college. But I agree, it was very BS. It's very BS. At the end of the day, though, like, you can argue for God knows how long, like how many different articles and research papers and all that shit on like what makes a good leader. We're not going to get to the exact idea, so I'm going to go ahead with this. As for who is the silhouette man, because I realized I didn't answer that part. Sorry. Aspiring, who's the silhouette man? I'm just rolling with fucking Scopper Gaban or new character. If it's Shiki, I think that's very exciting, but it's just very confusing to me. I wonder if Shiki would have a very different personality in Elbaf than he would in past storylines. Because here's the thing. So Shiki's been painted as a villain in the past, right? My personal feeling is that this silhouetted guy, right? So what do we know about the silhouetted guy? Let's do a quick small side thing, right? Come on. What we know of silhouetted guy. Silhouetted guy, supposedly strong, former, strong former pirate. That's a strong former pirate. Strong former pirate. Long hair, long spiky hair. Wears like kinda wano-ish clothes. Drinking with Crocus, so friendly with Crocus. May have been old friend of Shanks, he mentioned. 1076. So friendly Roger Pirates in general. Likely a good guy because Ripley / Colin are portrayed positively, and this guy is their husband / father, and they seem like happy family. Happy family. Good guy. And then was waiting for Luffy for some reason. Likely lore important for some reason. So looking at all this, is there anything else more that we know about the silhouetted guy? Is there anything else that we know more about the silhouette guy? Isaac St. Charles, thanks a lot. As a Mihawk fan, Shamrock greater than Shanks because he got 2 hands. That's possible. What if Shamrock's just way stronger than Shanks? Like, cause he's just got 2 arms. All right. Bitey McGar says, bro, the animals from Strong World on Shiki's crew are the exact same animals on Elbaf. It's crazy. Calvin Nguyen says, is it confirmed that the silhouetted man is the father? I guess not. I'll say likely. What they said is that, what they specifically said is that basically they implied that the only human on the island is Ripley's husband and Colin's father. And that just seems like him. Latest leak suggests... Oh, I don't want to give any spoilers. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. So these are the things we kind of know right now, right? These are the things we kind of know. So to me, if I'm looking at this stuff, I'm just going to say Scopper Gabon, but it's almost a bit of a boring answer because Rayleigh was so hyped when he showed up because it was just so out of the blue and so it was just such a bombshell, right? With Gabon's inherently less hype than Rayleigh because he's not as important as Rayleigh. He's like a slight step down in importance from Rayleigh. So Gabon's inherently less important. That's number 1. And 2, he's coming so much later in the story where now we're really used to seeing and meeting lots of legends and we have so much more context on the Roger Pirates. So all of that. JWP, thanks for the 10. Good to see you, man. Yo, Morj, man. Shamrock's design might be my favorite in the series. He's like Shanks, but somehow his grip is even better. Yeah, I mean, like, it's like Shanks if Shanks wasn't just a bum pirate that's sailing around the ocean, but, like, actually, like, you know, a royal noble dude. So it's Shanks' design, but, like, a little bit classier, basically, and then 2 arms really helps. Then, yeah, I guess my general thoughts is basically, like, the boring answer is that this guy's Scopper Gabon. I would say that... the only thing to consider with him is that the Scopper Gabon did have spiky hair. It wasn't as long, but hair can turn white as characters get older, so that could fit. Former Roger Pirate, so it kind of makes sense. But if he's not any of those, then I think Shiki... If he's not Gabon, I think Shiki would be a very exciting answer. It just doesn't make sense to me with his character, because drinking with Crocus... If it's the friend that Shanks mentioned, it just doesn't make sense, because Shiki would not have been one of Shanks' friends. Shiki's an asshole. It's technically not confirmed that it's Ripley's husband and Colin's father, but it's implied that the only other human on the island is that person, right? Like Ripley, and that the person is still on the island. we are like it is straight up made clear that Colin's father is still on the island because Colin's given food to take to his father, right? And Colin's father is a human, and this guy seems to be the only human there. So either it's a new character, I think either it's Gabon or it's Shiki. I would lean Gabon as the boring answer. I hope it's an exciting answer. Okay. All right, let's get back to this. Let's get into it. Let's get into the tier list. Let's get into the tier list before we lose the day, right? All right. So, let me title this Leadership Criteria. Let me go up. Okay. So Doflamingo actually is... I think Doflamingo as a leader, it's tricky. Because he does inspire confidence, he does inspire loyalty, he does all that. But at the same time... And he does care for some of his subordinates. Subordinates. And he is decisive. I think he makes good decisions. I think he's calm in a crisis. I think he's a lot of these things, so I think he's effective. But he is cruel. And I think the fact that he has a lot of his subordinates like die for him, like Virgo Monet, I think that's bad. And I think ultimately he's a terrible king for Dressrosa. So that actually docks him several points. So that puts him in B, right? Because he's also their leader as well. JWP, thanks for the 10. I just can't see it being Shiki. It blurs the line between canon and non-canon stuff too much. I feel like it has to be Scopper. Would be crazy if it is Gabon, and he's still likely Yonko 1+ level. Yeah, so that's the thing with me with Shiki, because I know Strongworld obviously not canon, but Oda always, anything he does in the movies, I mean, he's not doing it in the movies. Technically, he wrote Strongworld, I think, but he creates characters for movies, right, like Z and stuff like that. But it's always clear that they're separate from... They're a movie character and they're not really going to cross over. Chapter 0 is canon. So Shiki is the most canon of all the film characters. I guess Uta technically as well, but Shiki even more so. That's the tricky thing, because Shiki outright says that he's going to show the world in 20 years some stuff. But that was set up for film 0. Strongworld. I don't know. It would feel very weird to me if it's Shiki. Like, it's almost... I don't know. It just feels too weird to me if it's Shiki. But, like, I'd be happy if it's Shiki because that's more exciting than Gabon. But it just... I feel like there's, like, a sort of demarcation where Oda doesn't really fuck with things that are from movies, even if technically it's a character that he conceived that is supposedly canon to the story as well. All right, let's get the stream likes up to 100 real quick. If it's Shiki, I think that's exciting. Slasher Cat says he's a good mafia leader, but the cruelty is kind of what got him in the end. Dressrosa had like 10 revolutions. That's true. I'm still going to put him in... Yeah, I'm going to put him in C. I'll put him in C. But he's not like... No, I'm going to put him in B. Let's see what happens. K-Nerb says, being retired in a relationship with a giant doesn't sound like he's ready to shake the world. That's true, so it's even contradictory to what we were left off with him. Like, his character send-off in Chapter 0 was set up for Strongworld, pretty much. I'm going to keep him in B. Because he's got a lot of pros, but also a lot of cons. Like, if he was a good person, he'd just be an S. But he's not, so I gotta knock him a little bit. No, I mean, how is the disrespect atrocious? He was a terrible king to Dressrosa. He was a good leader for the Don Quixote pirates. Terrible leader for Dressrosa. He fucking erased his citizens from existence and turned them into slaves. You would not want Doflamingo to be your king. So it's a complicated situation. He's a terrible king, but a good pirate leader. At the same time, even in terms of military effectiveness, strategy, stuff like that, Doflamingo is strong. Running a business, Doflamingo was phenomenal businessman. I don't think he showed care for some of his subordinates as well, though. All right, I think it perfectly averages out to B with Doflamingo. I don't think that there's much to argue about there. Luffy. I'm gonna put Luffy in C just because he's a good guy. He's a good guy. But there's very few situations you would actually want him as a leader, right? Even in the Straw Hat Pirate crew, he only functions well as a leader because their dynamic is so democratic and Luffy doesn't pull his weight that much. Like they will treat him as captain in situations that demand it, but Luffy's day-to-day decision making is really, really bad, right? If Luffy was in charge of any other crew that kind of wanted an actual captain that acts like a captain, he wouldn't function well there either. Yeah, Luffy is inspiring. That counts for a lot. He should be in B. No, because inspiring it counts for enough to keep him out of D. But he would like literally just being inspired. I think sports teams were brought up. I think a sports team being the emotional leader of a sports team is probably the only situation in which Luffy would thrive. Like if he's the star on a sports team, he wouldn't even do well as a coach because as a coach, at the end of the day, you also need some X's and O's. You know. Horty Jones is actually probably not a bad leader. I think he low-key executed a good plan. His people listened to him. He's just a shitty leader to the people of Fishman Island because he's so cruel and unempathetic. So I'm going to put him in B. But he does inspire confidence and loyalty. I think he's missing too many things here. I'm put him in C. I'm going to put him in C. He's no Doflamingo. Yeah. Don Krieg, terrible. He fucking I think he was straight up like he launched that poison gas thing even though I think members of his crew would die without it. I think most of them had gas masks as well, but he ordered his crew members to take them off, right? So he's just cruel, evil leader that will fuck up his own people a lot, you know? Yeah, Krieg is D. Sukiyaki is not D, but he's a C. I'm going to put him in C. He's not D. He's not like Spandam level or something like that. You know, Spandam's a D. But Sukiyaki, not much backbone. Isaac St. Charles, thanks a lot. Unfair tier for villain if being good important. Unfair tier for villain if being a good person is important. That's arguably true. Are there some villains that are actually good? Okay, so then let's edit it. Let's edit it and say that you don't need to be good for your. I'm gonna say you don't need to be empathetic. Being a leader, you do ultimately need to make things good for your subordinates, right? You do ultimately need to make things good for your subordinates, the people that are following you. I think that's important. So I'm going to cut out impact on outside forces, like people that are... I personally disagree with this because, I think even if somebody that's in charge of my company or something like that, like the leader of my company was really, really good to all of us, but if he's screwing over people on the outside, or if I had a police captain who was a really good, inspiring police captain, but he did all sorts of terrible shit to people outside, I would still consider them a bad leader. But I'm going to say for or president of a country, right? Even if they make our country really amazing, if that involves bombing a shit ton of other countries that don't deserve it or something, I would still not want that person as my leader. I'm going to remove that stipulation from this. That still hurts Doflamingo because Doflamingo was a terrible king to the people of Dressrosa who are still his subordinates, right? Don Krieg was bad to his people. Spandam is a very selfish leader. So he made it very clear that he's in it for just himself, and he does not inspire any confidence or loyalty from his subordinates, so he still belongs there. Sukiyaki being dinged for not really sticking out for the people then put Doflamingo higher. How would that put Doflamingo higher? Did you read all of what he did to his citizens in Dressrosa? Do you not know what he did to the people? Are you insane? What? Did you forget? What is? Do you communication with the outside world is impossible. Unbeknownst to the world at large, you will die here alone. Your crazed fellows will continue to harm those around them without distinction or remorse. Beat their own families or their best friends. What are you guys talking about? Who knows what that Doflamingo bastard is planning? Do they love their leader here? What are you guys fucking insane? They were all being controlled by Doflamingo. Stop this, Doflamingo. Blah, 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 blah. What? Are you guys, I hope you guys are reading this, right? I just want you to think, is this guy a good leader? Please consider, what you're saying here, right? I think Fujitora even had a good quote. Let me see. Where did Fujitora say stuff? Yeah, they're enraged, etc. Okay, anyway, continuing on. It's not Carson says, is he trying to lead them? They're his subordinates. What the fuck does that even mean? They were his kingdom. He was the king of Dressrosa. I'm judging. What does that even mean? Is he trying to lead them? Yeah, he showed up. He said, I'm your new king now. You are now my citizens. What more does he need? What? If you're saying it doesn't count because he decided to quit leading them and is now killing them all, that would still make him a bad king as well. You don't get you don't get a free out if you're like the fucking president and it's like, well, I'm doing a good job leading the country, but now I don't feel like leading it anymore, so now I'm going to nuke the whole country. I would still say that's a pretty shitty president, right? If it's the boss of your company or like your military platoon leader and it's like, well, I've been a good platoon leader so far, but now I'm going to desert you all so you all die. You're a bad platoon leader. What is that? What the fuck? What is that? What kind of argument even is that? If you're willing to kill everybody you're in charge of, you're not. That doesn't absolve. Like that doesn't no longer count as you. Those are your subordinates, right? You choosing to kill your subordinates isn't some sort of like loophole that's like, well, it's technically not me being a bad leader because I don't view them as my subordinates anymore. It's like, well, then in that case, he never viewed them as people that he actually wants to protect. And during the entire time that he was king, he was still erasing them, correct? Pachinte says he never cared for them. They're just an instrument to him. Yeah, which would make him a bad leader. Are you guys listening to yourselves? A bad company leader would be someone who doesn't care about his subordinates. He just uses them as an instrument. That's why Spandam is a bad leader. That's why Don Krieg is a bad leader. That's why... What is that? How does this even make sense? Follow this logic. Like, follow the logic. What are you talking about? I'm not technically a bad leader because I'm just actually using all few people that I'm in charge of to further my own interests. It's like, yeah, man, that would be like a really bad leader thing to do. He was king of Dressrosa. He showed up with the intent to be king of Dressrosa. He wants to be in charge of all these people. Hence, these people are all his subordinates, subservient to him. Therefore, he will be judged by his actions towards them, correct? Does he lead this country well? Yes or no? if you want to talk about him and the Don Quixote pirates, then that's why it's balancing out why he's not in D. If it was just him as a leader of Dressrosa, it's in D. Leader as Don Quixote pirates, he's pretty good, so we're going to bounce it out to B. But you're fucking insane if you think Doflamingo is a good leader overall. Okay, Foxy is tricky because he wagers his subordinates all the fucking time. Like, that's his thing. But at the same time, he does it well. He's actually A. Because he wagers them, but they're all on board, and they genuinely like it. They love joining his crew. Like, you can actually go back and straight up see because he rigs every game, so it's not even fair to say that he is wagering them every time, but it's barely a gamble because they'll almost never lose. It seems like they almost never lose. It's kind of the same as, like, you know, Luffy has his crew go up against other pirate crews all the time. Like, pretty much everybody in the seafaring world, you do get into conflicts with other groups or whatever. You could almost argue that Foxy's method of doing it is the safest because he doesn't challenge other crews to, like, straight up life or death battles. He'll do a Davy backfight where worst case scenario, you know, there's some exchanging of groups. I think Foxy's actually maybe arguably an S tier leader. I'd say A. I'd say strong A. I'd say strong A. Shonen Academia, thanks a lot. False promises make D tier leader. Wanna video went. Hey, I don't declare myself your guys' leader. I've never said anything like that. Although there is the Morj cult meme, so that does exist, but I didn't create that. Oh, whoops. Gotta unpin this comment. Why do I have that comment pinned when instead the comment that you all actually want pinned is, of course... Hold on a second here. Is, of course... Yeah. You guys are looking at the posters in the background, I can tell. I just want to show you guys, you can still get them. We are coming up at the end of the month. We're really coming up at the end of the month. We're coming up at the end of the month, so these posters are only going to be available till the end of January, after which we're moving on to our next batch. As you can see in the background, we've got Fishman Island, Elbaf Village, beautiful sun coming down. We got a lot of sun in these theme coming through in this batch of posters. Again, Fishman Island, my personal favorite. I just think this is a beautiful rendition of it. Just the watercolor style. And then Witheria is fucking cool. Witheria is sick. Just psychedelic. You can get any of these posters individually at the Morj store, or you can get all of them together for 50% off for each poster. You can get all 4 at 50% off. So just hit the link if you are interested. Continuing on. Dalton is a great leader. I think Dalton is arguably our first S tier leader. I think he checks off every box. He really shouldered... If you recall, in the Drum Kingdom arc, it was pretty much Dalton versus the world, because the rest of the town, they were all really... He basically restructured the town. So they all treated him as their leader from the beginning of the arc. Then once Wapol came back, he fought to protect all the citizens who couldn't do anything. He inspired confidence, loyalty. He was ready to go up there and, like, blow up. Like, he had dynamite, if I recall, and fuck people up. He rallied them to their cause, ready to blow up Wapol, etc. So he's got the bravery, good decision making. His plan likely would have had a good shot at working. I think Wapol's just a good leader overall. I think he's an S tier. I think he's arguably an S tier. There is no argument for Luffy moving up. He is not good at anything in terms of, like, actually leading jack shit, except for getting people inspired and pumped up. But he cannot be in charge of decision making. He's just not good at that. You would never want... If you apply Luffy in real life to anything that you would actually want good decision making for, he would be the last person that you pick. He wouldn't even get through the job interview. Continuing on. Sorry, Dalton's a good... Yeah. I think Dalton is at least S or A. Jank says Luffy has to constantly be stopped from doing stupid stuff. Yeah, I think if your leader is literally every single day trying to enact certain decisions that will kill you, that you have to constantly dissuade him from, that is not a good leader. You would just never want that person in charge of a military platoon, a country, a business, anything. You wouldn't want them for your boss at work. You would be frustrating. It's played for gags in One Piece, but in real life, it's not really a thing. Continuing on. Capone Beige, phenomenal leader. I think Capone Beige is S. He does care about his family. He makes that very clear when they're all in the Big Father. He does care about his family. He's very smart, very calculated, but he's got the empathy side as well. He's very brave, great decision making during times of crisis. Yeah. Kinemon's also a good leader. I think Kinemon's a good leader. Kinemon, I think, had one of the most impressive rally jobs in terms of like getting everybody together that I've seen in the story, because normally in One Piece, people are rallied together by strength, right? Or nepotism, right? So like the reason people listen to Momonosuke is because he's Odin's son, right? The people listen, like Vivi's in charge of Alabasta because she's the fucking princess of the country, right? Obviously she does a great job as that, but like that's why she's in charge, right? But generally speaking, in terms of wars and like big military, like getting like a battle, like leading a battle and stuff like that, in One Piece, people flock to the strongest. Kinemon is very weak, but he was still able to really, really rally people together. He does get made fun of for the scene where things accidentally came together for him, you know? He accidentally had that scene where he didn't plan anything. But I feel like that scene obfuscates the fact that he did in fact plan quite a bit still that did work out. He didn't come up with he's not the absolute smartest, like he's not like Law. But he did plan out quite a bit that did in fact work out. I want to put him almost an S, because he did, like, the Alliance is to date the biggest, most impressive amalgamation of characters that we've seen from different factions have to come together. And I think it's extra impressive that he did it without being strong, right? It's easy to draw characters to you when you're strong, because everyone's like, holy shit, that guy's like a big deal, right? And that's another point with Luffy, by the way. You got to remember with Luffy, like, a lot of his leadership comes from the fact that he's so physically capable, right? Like, he's so strong. He can fuck up. He frees so many cities and towns and nations or whatever through his strength, which in turn leads to characters flocking to him. Kinemon managed to do that without really much. I kind of want to put him in S. Shonen Academia says Luffy would be D if he forced his stupidity upon the decisions of the rest of the crew. He lets them beat him up and take command from him when needed. He also leads other leaders to step up. Yeah, so that's why he's in C. But just because your argument is, well, all of Luffy's, like 99% of Luffy's decisions are terrible, but his crew forces him out of it, therefore he's a good leader. If that's genuinely your argument, think about, again, like, I feel like people are thinking with their emotions and not actually trying to look at what we're trying to do here, right? Much like a poor leader would do. Would you want a boss who 99% of their decisions you need to actively talk them out of? No. And it all ultimately comes down to, are they going to listen to you well enough, or are they going to be fucking stubborn as fuck? Because there are a lot of times that Luffy's stubborn as fuck, and if he's saying, we're going to launch our ship into the sky, and we'll find out whether or not we die afterwards. They got fucking lucky that Sky Island exists. You would not want your boss to tell you that, hey, we are going up to the sky, whether or not we know it exists, and if it doesn't, then we die. Luffy pushed that one through despite the protests of his crew. It just happened, right? If you think Luffy is genuinely a good leader, I feel bad for you in real life, because I don't think anyone would ever put you in charge of anything if you viewed this guy as some sort of a model leader. No, Luffy is not a good boss, would not be a good actual captain of a ship, not a good person in charge of a company, not a good person in charge of a military platoon, considering how easily he is duped, his inability to follow orders from anywhere else or follow basic strategy. The fact that he actively fucks up his own group's plans at any given moment. Heading into Onigashima, they had a plan, Luffy runs in ahead. Heading into Enies Lobby, they had a plan, Luffy runs in ahead. This man is not a good leader in any actual context outside of One Piece, right? We're trying to evaluate them based on general criteria, like if we set aside the fairy tale setting of One Piece, where yes, everything Luffy does as the protagonist will almost always naturally work out. Would this guy actually be good to be in charge of anything? No, of course not. If you just actually apply reasoning to any of this, I think most of this makes sense. I don't know if I should put Kinemon up here. Henchme 976 is Luffy's B. That's not a good leader. He is mid-range, great traits balanced by horrible traits. No, because he has almost no traits that you would want in your boss, right? Like, generally, I can clip from almost any moment in One Piece, like any scene in One Piece, like, you would not want his traits as a leader, right? His only saving grace, it's not like a balanced thing where, like, you know, you can see so much value to Doflamingo as a leader in terms of, like, the fact that he does, you know, he is really good at long-term strategy, he is very good at decision-making, he's very intelligent, is very effective at caring about certain subordinates and inspiring loyalty from them, etc. With Luffy, it's just like, no, this dude is constantly on the verge of fucking everything up, and the narrative reels him in, and he essentially would be, by real-world standards, like, if we're being very real, Luffy would be, by real-world standards, severely mentally disabled, right? Like, let's just call a spade a spade. To argue that Luffy would be somebody that you want as your leader, your boss, your whatever political president, prime minister, whatever, platoon leader, anything, let's be very, very real. Like, throw away the One Piece fantasy, all you need a kind heart, blah, 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 blah. In real life, most people would not want somebody who is generally severely mentally disabled as the boss of their company, as running their country, being your military leader, etc. I'm just gonna, and it's not like, oh, Luffy's autistic or something. No, Luffy genuinely has an IQ that is severely below the threshold of what a normal individual would have. I'm done playing this game if Luffy should be any higher. He should very arguably be here. We are putting it here just because he's got so much heart, right? And he's able to make his subordinates feel happy and cared for. But we're done playing it, okay? If I see one more argument for Luffy being S, A, or B or something, you are either a moron yourself and therefore do not see the issue with Luffy being in charge of jack shit. Actually, I'm not even going to play this. If I see more arguments for this, I'm putting Luffy in D, because this is just stupid at this point if you're trying to make that argument. Let's move on. Okay, Kaido as a leader. Luffy does not have some form of autism, because that is very insulting to people who have autism, who are much more, high functioning. Like, Luffy straight up is, like, I'm not going to get into it. Like, because I'm not going to pretend to know all the nuances of the different types of mental disabilities you could have. But whatever Luffy has in real world standards, it would be very, very severe. Very, very severe. Continuing on. Kaido is shitty for the people of Wano, but this is a different situation from Doflamingo in that Kaido was never actually in charge of the people of Wano, right? Kaido is an outside force that Orochi brought in to threaten the people of Wano, but generally speaking, Kaido was viewed in Wano as a sort of separate deity that existed. The move that Kaido was making towards the climax of Wano was to move Onigashima to the center of the flower capital, but he was never interested in ruling the people. No, he still wanted them as workers for his factories and stuff like that. So it's complicated. So we never got to see Kaido in that context, but Kaido with the Beast Pirates, which are the people that he was, like the faction that he was actually in charge of. I feel like he was pretty brutal to his subordinates. Like the first scene that we see with him interacting with his crew in Little Pirate Games, he launches that guy out through. So he's a very temperamental, angry boss. He only values his top performers. Like he'll be nice to Jack or like King or something like that, right? And he's kind of nice to the Toby Roppo. Beyond that, I think he's very cruel to his subordinates. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in D. Yeah, I think generally just being really bad to subordinates will put you low. Axe-Head Morgan, I'm going to put you in D. Momonosuke. Okay, so Momonosuke is good as a figurehead, right? He's good as a figurehead. He's not really a big decision maker. He's only 8 years old so far. But he had a really outstanding starting speech. I'm going to put Momonosuke in B. The thing is, a lot of decision-making throughout that arc is outside of Momonosuke's hands. Gonfall. I think Gonfall is a solid A. The reason I'm not putting him in S is because he could have done a lot more to repair relationships between them and the Shandorins early on. I don't think he handled the negotiation. I actually, straight up, I think that Gonfall didn't handle the negotiation that he had with Wiper early on that well. He was like, do you like pumpkin juice? Oh, check supers? Hold on. 1 second. Tuna sub, thanks for the 5. Before we even get to him, can we put a special tiered below D for Hawkins? Dude's crew exists because he doesn't feel like dodging attacks. That's actually very fair. I'll make an E tier when it comes to Hawkins. Bubble Bass says he's better than his father who relies on others. Yeah, others. Yeah, I agree. Odin's going to be like a fucking C tier, D tier type character. C tier probably. Momonosuke does rely a lot on others, but at the end of the day, like he's a bit of a puppet leader for throughout it. So it's complicated. So I can't put him high. Like Foxy actually leads his crew to a lot of success. Like a lot of success. Like actually Foxy's a fucking phenomenal leader if you think about it. Because I think like if you think about it, like really, really think about this, right? I think Foxy's S. I think Foxy... No, he doesn't show... We don't get to see how much or whether or not he actually cares about his subordinates. So that's holding him back. But I think the Foxy pirates, who are not that strong of a crew by any means, under Foxy's leadership, they outperform what they should be to an absolutely ludicrous degree, right? So by that I mean, like, for example... the Foxy pirates, like, their best fighters are fucking, like Foxy himself, who's really not all that. Like, 30-something million berry bounty, maybe 32 or something. You got the Groggy monsters. You got fucking Porsche. Like, you don't have that much to work with in that crew. But at the same time, they were a real... like, if you look at the Straw Hats on paper... Like, Luffy just came off of... Like, Luffy, Zoro, Sanji, like, they just came off of fucking up a fucking Shichibukai. Like, Luffy just defeated a Shichibukai. Zoro just defeated, like, Mr. One. This is, like, 100 million, 60 million berry bounty thing. Like, characters that you're working with here. Look at what Luffy did to Bellamy. Like, just straight up one-shot at Bellamy, right? Who is, by all accounts, probably a stronger combatant than Foxy and them. But I'm just saying, like, the Foxy pirates were, through Foxy's strategy... and the fact that he works with Davy backfights, etc. Like, they legitimately were, like, it went down to the wire between them and the Straw Hat Pirates. Like, if a few things went a little bit differently, it would be practically like a top tier Grand Line crew, which is what the Straw Hats were at that point in time, losing to a gang of buggies because Foxy's strategy was that good. You know what I'm saying? And like they had a yeah, I know Big Pan is strong, but at the end of the day, like Zoro and Sanji, if they're either of them being mildly like focused or serious, could fuck them up solo. It's just that Foxy made sure to set things up in a way that the groggy monsters are a legitimate problem for Zoro and Sanji. Yeah, I just think it's the fact that like if you view it as like what that crew has to work with, they severely outperformed what they should be able to do in terms of being a challenge to the Straw Hats. Yeah, Foxy did every crafty thing he could, and he got his entire crew to buy into it. And again, like the biggest thing is that the Foxy Pirates, they like it. Like the crew seems like a fun place to be. So here, where do we see Foxy first? Maybe it's this chapter. We see the crew somewhere. Oh shoot! I feel like I feel something in my throat. I might be getting sick. We see a dude that they stole through the Davy back fight here. Where is he? Where is he? We see the dude that they stole from the latest crew, and it looks like they're having a good time. I might be wrong. Yeah, look. Oh, you must mean the Big Fang Frog Pirates. They were losers of the previous games. Look, these are the new crews we got. Woo, long-lived Foxy Pirates. This is insane. The dude's already so on board. I won't deny it. I was the captain of the frogs. I was the doctor. I was the navigator. They're all cool with it. Like, he's happy. Whatever this crew's like, it's fun. It's a good time. It's the leader has brilliant sense of strategy, risk assessment, decision making, all of that. I just don't know how much, like, if push comes to shove, how is he in a crisis, and like how much would he be willing to throw his crewmates under the bus? All right, let's continue. Wait, why is Kinemon not an S tier leader? What's the problem with Kinemon? What are you guys talking about? I don't even know what you guys are talking about now. Wait, what's the problem with Kinemon? Am I missing something about Kinemon? I think Kinemon's I think the job Kinemon did pulling that whole alliance together, like, because they started out with jack shit, right? Literally just him, Momonosuke, and Kanjuro. Kanjuro was like Odin's overlooking the fact that they had a trade or whatever. And then they pulled in the Straw Hat Pirates, the Law Pirates, the Minks. He was able to rally the Minks. He was able to get the rest of the Scabbards to listen to him, which is very difficult because Kinemon is not that strong. Again, a lot of these other characters, you got to remember, they have the advantage of being strong. In One Piece, generally, people are willing to be subordinates to strong characters, right? Kinemon didn't have that, so I feel like it was just a lot of work. I think he had the most uphill battle to be able to actually become the leader of the Alliance. I don't think Kinemon is that slow, though. So, I know people go off that meme, and like he has a couple gag moments where he's not like shown the smartest, but he also overall the plan that he laid out was a good plan. Like, you don't need to be the smartest guy as a leader. He is smarter than the average One Piece character, I would say. Again, people are going off of that meme, but like the general plan, as far as I recall, of like who's doing what, he kind of had that together. He came up with a lot of the things of how they're gonna organize themselves. Charlie D. Joestar says because of the Straw Hats. But it's not just because of the Straw Hats. Like, yeah, like the Heart Pirates came in because of the Straw Hats. That's fair. But the Minx Kinemon got on his own. That's not the Straw Hats. The rest of the scabbards Kinemon got on his own. Luffy was able to get the people from Udon, sure, but then a lot of the other samurai and like the plan to gather people with the Crescent Moon mark, etc. That's Kinemon. Kinemon rallied a lot of like Kinemon has a big speech rallying everybody in the boats when they're heading over to Onigashima and everything like that. Yeah, like part of it is the Straw Hats, yes, but then a lot of it is also Kinemon, right? And the Straw Hats you would count as characters that Kinemon's bringing into their fold. Okay. Continuing on. Slasher Ketsu's Law was the one who came up with the plan, though. The whole plan? I'm talking about like 920. Let me see. Maybe that was Law. Let's see. Where's the plan? Okay. So is this all planned by Law? I got the sense that this was like Kinemon's thing. And then sending people to accomplish certain tasks. Like, remember Zoro was saying, "I'm sorry, Kinemon," when Zoro got found and captured and stuff like that. Like, is this all Law or is this Kinemon? Yeah, there were mistakes that Kinemon made. But I don't feel like it's fair to, like, comrades are spread, blah, blah, blah. Like, is this all... I feel like a lot of this is Kinemon. Right? Isn't a lot of this Kinemon? Like, all of this... Like, you guys are reading what I'm reading, right? Like... assigning the different roles, etc. So, like, this is strategy, right? This is Kinemon. I'm not saying Kinemon's perfect, but like, you guys wanted to put fucking Luffy in like A tier or something like that, and you're roasting Kinemon for getting this thing wrong, right? Like, he made some mistakes, but in general, like, I'm not saying like perfect in terms of strategy, you know? He still had to do a lot more strategy work than other leaders in general, right? But this is already a lot more strategy than like Dalton had to do, and we're good with Dalton in S. I'm not saying he's as smart as Beige, but then he's got other traits that are better than Beige, right? I don't know. I'm gonna keep Kinemon in S. It seems I can drop him to A, but I feel like that's just because people don't respect him. But I think that's just because like a couple meme moments got to him. But like if you really look at him from start to finish, to me this is really elaborate. Like this is elaborate, and everything that he got together is really impressive, considering he's not strong. He's not strong, and he's not royalty. So to me, that's like already really, really impressive that he was able to get everything together that he did. Because everybody else has the advantage of being like physically really strong to force people to like, not force people, but like characters will flock to them, right? Yeah, Drinkwater says people who said they're not S is measuring their best on strength, just like people in One Piece would. Yeah, but we're not going by, like, we're not just going by strength like in the One Piece world, you know? Yeah, if Danger didn't misinterpret the plan, the raid would have failed. That's true. That's true. He did make a but I'm just saying, like, does one mistake cancel out everything else that he did get together, you know? Because like at the end of the day, he got all of this shit. Like this is a like the 95% of the strategy was still tight. You know, I don't think a leader should be not allowed to make mistakes. 95% of the strategy was still tight, and he does a lot more strategy work than like Gan Fall or like Dalton or anything like that. You know, like I think it's better to be really effective strategically for a lot of things and get one thing wrong than just not be good strategy wise at all. At the end of the day, I view this whole thing as like Kinemon's group that he got together. You know what I'm saying? Okay, all right. We're getting too in the weeds about this. I'm going to keep Kinemon an S. We can bump him later if it feels wrong. Big Mom, D. She's kind of intelligent sometimes, but then also wildly unintelligent other times. And then she literally like kills her children every other day or whatever. Her children literally live in fear of her. Katakuri's final promise with Luffy was like, hey, you're going to come back and beat Big Mom one day, right? Wapol, easy D. A lot of bad leaders in One Piece. Boa Hancock, D. I think there's a lot of revisionist history about Boa Hancock. I think we have yet to have any sort of confirmation. What would she have done with Marguerite and them after turning them to stone? If Luffy didn't make the right decision. Javon Johnson, thanks for me. Yonko Tierman for 10 months. Hey, Morj, do you think we've already read the best of One Piece? Vice versa, have we read the worst? I think that the best of One Piece is still yet to come. I think the one thing that might be a little bit different is that the good might be more in spikes now. In terms of, I think we've got still some phenomenal character writing left, just based on Kuma's backstory. And I think that in terms of like action, scale, epic storylines, etc., it's action, scale, etc. I think the most hype war stuff is still to come. And lore, of course, yeah. I think the best is still to come. Hancock is a C. Boa's mean, but she still protects the island. But she doesn't. Her first statement, I mean, she kind of does, but her literal first introduction scene was her rejecting going to Marineford War, despite the fact that it would remove world government protection from the island. So can somebody contend with that? Fisher Tiger, I think he was a good leader. I'm going to put him in. I think he was a good leader, right? The mistake he made was just being too empathetic, but I don't think that's a big deal. I think he was a particularly good leader, considering he was able to unite characters with such vastly differing philosophies, like Jinbei and Arlong. Sinkao Wisamer says Luffy changed her for real? No, but he didn't. She just likes him now, but that doesn't mean that her personality didn't change, right? All right, Whitebeard S, no question. Whitebeard is probably like I think we might need another tier like SS or something. We'll get to the top tiers shortly. King Cobra, I think King Cobra is a very good leader. King Cobra is a very good leader. King Cobra is going to be very high. Dragon. Dragon. Whatever 47 says Horty C, but Boa D. Yeah, because Horty was still about the... Like, it still seemed like he was about the fisherman people. He's just very skewed about it. But Boa literally doesn't, like, seem to give a shit about the Amazons. Or at least what she does to a lot of them. Or whether even they retain protection or whatever. Why is Dragon an S? Let's see. Inspires confidence, inspires loyalty, yeah. Makes subordinates happy, cares for subordinates. He is very decisive, he's intelligent. He does plan the furthest ahead out of any of the characters that we've seen. I don't know if Dragon's calm and confident in a crisis. I think that he gets stressed out easily so far. I would say the two knocks on Dragon are get stressed out easily. I don't maintain the Ginny argument because, like, that's a soldier that got captured or whatever. His goal is not, like, you're in the revolutionary, like, you're trying to overthrow the world. So, like, everybody that's signing, it's not like a pirate crew exactly. Like, it's a soldier that got captured, but he's not going to do the above and beyond to go save that person because the plan in general is to go save everybody that's up there in Morj at some point. So I don't hold the Ginny stuff against him. I'm going to go ahead and put him in... He gets stressed. I'll put him in S, but I do think he gets stressed. Yeah, I'm going to say A until we see him do something worthy of S. I'm going to say that. JWP, thanks for the 10. Devil's advocate against Whitebeard. Oh, he led his entire crew into an unwinnable battle, essentially sentencing thousands of his subordinates to death. That is true, but I don't think that that Whitebeard never enforced that, though, right? So he even made, like, he made that very clear. That was one of his most important moments, which was like, if you all want to leave, you can leave. Right? Like that was after Squirtle stabbed him. He destroyed the frozen icebergs so that everybody could exit. He was just like the idea is that they're a family. So they're all on board with it. Like everybody that's there is there because they want to help. He called on them for help. And like they all arrive on the shores of Marineford. Right? Like 5, 7, like let's see what happens. When do they all arrive on there? Yeah, so they all arrive, and then they're like, yeah, they're all just like on board. Let's save Ace, take down Marine headquarters. They all want to do this. All right, man, let's save Ace. Like, they're a family, you know? They all want to do this. Squirtle was the first person that got tricked into basically being like, oh, well, it's because, like, he got manipulated into feeling like Whitebeard wanted, like, was just frivolously, like, he got manipulated into misperceiving how Whitebeard was approaching the situation, but Whitebeard then immediately made clear that, like, you all can literally leave right now. I'm here to save Ace. Thought we're all here to save Ace, so let's do it. So I view that as very different. Because he's not even forcing anyone to do it. He's just able to inspire such confidence and like loyalty and actually make them feel like a family that they all genuinely want to go in and save Ace, you know? Slasher Cat says he should have gone after Ace earlier, like when he was in Pull Down. I mean, you can get into the technicalities of that, but like in that case, things would have, like they're keeping track of where the Whitebeard Pirates' movements are or whatever. The throwdown was going to happen just wherever it was going to happen is wherever it was going to happen, right? So if they chose to target, like with a force that size that they were bringing, right? They were bringing a gigantic fleet, right? So the force that size that they're bringing, there's not really a surprise attack. If you're saying like instead they should have gone for a stealth mission, right? If instead they should have gone for a stealth mission, then you could, I suppose, make that argument. But then it's just that's hard in its own right? Like that comes with its own set of challenges. Whitebeard chose to go with open war. You could argue that open war is also necessary to show strength to his other Yonko territories, etc., that they will be protected openly by his military strength. I don't know. Leo, I don't really know. He tried to stop Ace from chasing Blackbeard. Yeah, I don't know if he really has a real flaw there. Bubble Bass says Marines managed to successfully convince a subordinate to stab him, trapped them with walls, decimated them with pacifistas, burned Moby Dick. They completely destroyed them. They had zero advantage. Yeah, I agree, but at the same time, like, few things there, right? So I'm gonna set Squirtle aside. They were never gonna win at Marineford. They had no hope, right? Like, you could say that, like, what are they supposed to do? Like, trap them with the walls, decimated them with the pacifista. Whitebeard had his own strategic moves that he made throughout it, like getting the Moby Dick in there, into the center of the bay, etc. If his flaw is that he's not as good of a general as Sengoku, then that is a flaw. But I don't think Whitebeard was ever portrayed as stupid over the course of Marineford. And he did actually seem to make good tactical decisions as best as he could in terms of like how they should respond to everything the Marines were throwing at them. But like, trap them within the walls. Like, Whitebeard didn't know they had technology that could counter the Gura Gura no Mi. Like, pacifistas, that's brand new technology, right? Like, the Marines had just so, like, their bag was just so ridiculously deep. I would argue that it's almost more like, well, the fact that it was even close is pretty impressive. Sengoku's the Buddha, right? Supposedly the smartest military general. I don't think, like, we're not judging leadership based on, like, are you the smartest military general? Like, Whitebeard was decently smart as far as we saw in terms of his decision making, just not quite up there with Sengoku. And without the resources, of course. He did the best he could with what he had. Leo. I'm going to be frank. I don't fucking remember enough about Leo with the Tentadas to say anything here. Probably somewhere like B tier, right? Something like that. Basil Hawkins. I agree with a tier below the tiers that we currently have for Basil Hawkins. Oops. I agree that we need something special for this dude. We need something a little extra for him. Also, let's get the stream likes up to 150. All right, Shanks. Shanks is generally a very good leader. I would also put him up there in S. Everyone seems to really love him, really respect him, really want to do stuff for him. He's very empathetic to them. And we know that he will go to insane lengths to protect them. Shanks is right up there. King Neptune. I think a solid mid-level leader. I don't really know what else to say about him. Solid mid-level. Not the smartest dude. I think the people generally like and respect him. He's just fucking him. You know? He's just King Neptune. Not much to say about him. Riku, to me, was like Diet Cobra. He did make... I think that the best... What Oda implies the best run nation to be is Dressrosa under Riku. I think he does imply that. So he seems to be a good master of policy and stuff like that. I can put Riku in A. Law is a very good leader. I don't think he goes above... This is one thing, which is that, like, what you can say for Luffy and what part of the reason he's not in D is because he will go above and beyond for his subordinates. I don't think, while Law cares about his subordinates, I don't think he would go above and beyond. Like, for example, when Beppo's taking him away from Blackbeard and them, Law wants to stay behind and help. No, I don't think there's that much you can say about, like, there's not much Law knocks. He's not a very, like, his crew does have loyalty to him. They care for him. He inspires confidence in them. I think we just don't see him with his crew that often. He's very smart. He's maybe the most tactically intelligent character in One Piece that we've seen. Yeah, maybe the most tactically clever character in One Piece that we've seen. I'm not sure. He is secretly pretty kind. I think it's just we don't see that much between him and his crew, so I don't feel like it's right to put him in S. Like, I feel like these characters, we get to see them more in that leadership role to some degree. I would put Law at the top of A. You guys feel like that? OG3 says Morj racking his brains to put Law below Kinemon. No, like, come on. I think Law is very overrated in terms of his strength, and his character will forever annoy me. I'd be happy to say in terms of strategy, he's maybe the smartest character we have in One Piece. And he's not even like that lone wolf type strategist where, like, he can't lead. He can lead his crew pretty well. We just don't see that much between Law and his crew. They're almost like separate from him. And he didn't jeopardized them when he went in fighting for Dofi. Yeah, he does care about them quite a bit. Let me see what happened towards the here, let me see this real quick. How did things end up between him and Blackbeard? Does anyone remember the chapter? Anyone remember kind of what chapter their fight closed out? Hell, did I not do the digital? Or did I do the digital? What chapter did Law and Blackbeard's fight finish out? Was it around here? Yeah. Okay, here we go. Can't leave the crew. Go back, Beppo. Can't leave the crew behind. Yeah, I think Law's S tier. I think Law is S tier as a leader. I'd put Law actually pretty high. Shit. I think I just don't find Law an inspiring leader, but clearly his crew does, so he's effective enough at doing it. I don't know why his crew, obviously he's strong and very smart and capable, but his crew really seem to he just seems to get a lot of emotion out of them. Like, Law's crew is actually a fairly emotionally pumped up crew all the time. So I don't know what Law's doing behind the scenes, but Law's not developing his crew enough. Law's crew is just not strong enough, to be honest. I view those as valid reasons to dock Law. Because he leaves them behind he leaves his crew behind too much. You know what? I was lying to myself. I was racking my brains trying to find a reason that Law doesn't seem S tier, but not because I hate his character. It's genuinely because he doesn't feel like an S tier leader to me, and I don't know why. I just, when I think of Whitebeard or Shanks or Cobra, I think of, these guys are real leaders, right? Law is so independent of as a figure, it almost doesn't feel right to call him an S tier leader, but I couldn't logically think of a reason why. But now that I think about it, he leaves his crew behind all the time, and he leaves his crew out of things. I think that, and I think that's to the detriment of his crew. Because if your other crews, like the Straw Hats or the Kid Pirates, where you do everything together, at the end of the day, you are pushing your subordinates to get stronger. I think that's a fair point. OG3 says, Law carries bums. This is like slandering LeBron for 2018. Because that would be like slandering LeBron for 2018 if LeBron was the one who, in the first place, was, responsible for, how do I say, their development to some degree as well, you know? The reason Law's crew is weak is largely because Law leaves them out of shit. They were not there in Dressrosa. They were not there in Punk Hazard. They haven't been there since he was on fucking Punk Hazard. So they're skipping out on Punk Hazard, Dressrosa. During Wano, he gives them jack shit to do except sail around in a submarine. He's part of the reason that his crew sucks, in my opinion. I think that's a fair thing to say. OG3 says, by that logic, Kid is a good leader? No, it would be only by that logic if I claimed that was the only criteria. I'm saying that there's a lot of things that we're looking at, right? And Law is good in pretty much every category, except he is more of a lone wolf, right? He is more of a lone wolf. He doesn't bring his crew along, right? And so he's not quite perfect, so I'm not going to put him in S. He's good with them when he's with them. And he's a very smart, competent leader when it comes down to it. But at the same time, lone wolf tendencies, his crew gets left behind a lot. I think that's fair enough of a thing to say that maybe he shouldn't be quite S tier as a leader. Kid, you could say it's a point in his favor that he, that he's always bringing he's not abandoning his crew in any situation, right? He always wants them with him. But then there's so many other things that make Kid worse that obviously he's nowhere near Law as a leader. Monte, thanks for the 5. I don't know if Dragon gets stressed easily. The government you fought for 20 years just now showed they can actively use the world's 800 years old weapons of mass destruction. Is a little crazy, man. But I don't think that's the only situation. I feel like we've seen him read the news several times and he's got a stressed face. I feel like I see him stressed frequently. JWP, thanks for the 5. If this was a One Piece strategist tier list, Law would be number 1, but it's not. Yeah, we could do smartest One Piece strategist or something, but that's not quite what this is. All right, continuing on. Elizabello, I shouldn't even have fucking put him in this list. I don't know enough about him. I'm going to put him back here. We're not going to rank him. This dude, I don't know enough about him. I think we can't put things I don't know enough about. I don't know why I included him. Sorry. Judge as a leader. His clones he uses as expendable pieces that he literally will have them jump in front of attacks for, so we're going to put him in D. Smoker is a very good leader, too. Smoker is actually a very good leader. Smoker is actually S tier? Because Smoker is up there with Laws in terms of being very intelligent and everything like that, and very tactical-minded, very strategic-minded. I'd say Smoker and Law remarkably similar, but Smoker has the edge in that Smoker actually, like the G5 Marines, strongly developed underneath Smoker, right? Strongly developed, and actually was like a major plot point too, in terms of like, if you're looking at post Alabasta. Look at this. Whoops. Look at this shit. Here. Let me just show you what Smoker's got that Law is missing. Alright? Let me show you. Fuck, where the fuck is the Smoker chapter? Smoker strongly empowers his subordinates to improve themselves and take the initiative. Like, if you recall, the whole reason that Tashigi is here right now and Smoker's not is because Smoker put Tashigi in charge of the mission and basically gave her, told her to basically, like, learn how to enact her sense of justice here, right? So, look at this. This scene, okay? Forgive me, Captain, blah, blah, blah. So he was teaching her about justice here, right? So this was like this was a little arc for Smoker to teach Tashigi about how to find her justice, right? Look, people who you've thought to be on your level until recently have climbed higher and higher, spreading their infamy. They know that you can't survive in this sea without constantly continuing to climb higher. Will you advance or die? Who was it that decided on her own to come to this sea, right? If you're frustrated enough to cry, then try getting stronger. Yes, sir. And look at this. I'd like to see that much guts from the rest of you, too. You see this shit? Do you think Law is telling Beppo this shit off screen? Do you think Sachi has ever heard these words in his life? Do you think Penguin has ever been told that either you can advance or die? Or they're fucking stuck shooting, like, squirt guns and shit against a fucking Yonko crew. Huh? This is what Law's missing, and the reason that Law is an A tier. Smoker is basically Law as a leader, 1-to-1. Except he's actually an empowering figure for his subordinates and is focused on his subordinates' developments. Smoker, I would actually go as far as to say this. Second best leader in One Piece. Changed my mind. Renji768 says Law treats his crew like children. Exactly. And that's why you got fucked up the moment that you ran into a strong crew. Because if you coddle your crew and keep them off in timeout or babysitting land for the majority of arcs, they're not going to improve. Law's definitely B. No, because Law's better than these guys, these bums. He's not Neptune level. Law's better than these bums. Like, keep in mind, the thing that I'm saying Law's not doing, these guys aren't fucking doing either. You know? I don't see Gonfall fucking telling his, like... I'm only explaining why Law's not an S tier. Law's phenomenal in every other category, right? His crew, a lot of confidence in him, very loyal, he's very intelligent, always calm under pressure, very good strategically, makes great decisions for his crew. He prioritizes keeping his crew safe, and he's very, very focused on protecting them as well. But the only thing is that it might be too much to their detriment to the point that, like, his crew doesn't advance or develop the way that he does. That's the only thing docking him. TNTEDYUM says, by that logic, Doflamingo is A tier. I love when people say, by that logic, and then add their own logical framework, which is more just saying that this is the only factor that determines a good leader. No. Do you think that that's my argument for that's the only thing that makes a good leader, whether or not you encourage your subordinates to develop? With Doflamingo, I'm also considering some small things like, hey, erasing the existence of your subordinates and turning them into slaves. That's maybe a bad thing as well, right? Anytime you say by that logic, more just saying X, you are fundamentally misunderstanding that these are all holistic views, right? So if you actually want to have a comparison, you would need to list out everything that I'm saying for Doflamingo and everything that I'm saying for Law, and then trying to understand why holistically Doflamingo still falls below Law, even if in one particular criteria Doflamingo might be better, right? Anytime somebody says by that logic this character should be S tier or A tier, I'm just like, no, that'd be only if you can only think about one thing at a time and are basing all of your decision making on a single factor, which is obviously not what this list is. All right, continuing on. Continuing on. T-Bone. T-Bone was a good leader. I think he was just a little bit dumb, but he was good. I'd put T-Bone here. I think he was a little bit dumb, but his heart was in the right place. Akainu, I think, is a poor leader. Akainu, I think, is straight up a poor leader. So far, because, like, if you compare the Marines, we've been told that the Marines became a more a more militant group, I guess, a more willing to use force, like a tougher group, I suppose, under Akainu. But in terms of actual results, the military of today is jack shit compared to like what it once was. Like pre-time skip, if I see 3 admirals sitting in a row together, I'm just like, oh shit, this is some danger. If I see 3 admirals sitting in a row together right now, I'm like, okay, you know what's gonna happen is fucking Fujitori's gonna fucking fight Green Bull, so we're good there. And Kizaru might end up in a moral quandary partway through because the things that he's being made to do nowadays are not so nice, right? You could say part of that's not Akainu's fault, but the simple reality is that Akainu is not... The Marines feel less like... Just backtrack here, right? Aokiji straight up left the Marines rather than be led by Akainu. Straight up left the Marines rather than be led by Akainu. Fujitora... Like, Akainu's first fucking scene post-time skip was him and Fujitora just straight up yelling at each other. Because the Fujitora fundamentally disagreed with Akainu. Fucking Kizaru. We just ended last arc with Kizaru blowing up at Akainu. These current admirals do not respect Akainu in the same way. They just don't. That's nothing to say of his strength or whatever, but, like, they fucking get pissed off at him. Green Bull is the only one that's a bootlicker. But these admirals are not in line. You've got Aokiji literally left the Marines rather than be led by Akainu. Literally left. And then every other arc, it's fucking one admiral or another, like, blowing up at Akainu and being like, shut the fuck up, Akainu. We don't agree with you, blah, 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 blah. In fact, if you go back to fucking Green Bull, what chapter was Green Bull introduced? Someone tell me. Interestingly enough, like, they just don't give a shit about him. They just don't give a shit about Akainu. Let's see, what's the first chapter Green Bull is introduced? Okay, so... Sakazuki says, he wants me to find you and kick you out. Green Bull says to Fujitora, while Fujitora chilling here, blatantly ignoring Akainu's instructions and just not doing what he's saying. Fujitora's like, I don't give a fuck, I'll do whatever he wants. I might be crashing the meeting, blah, blah, blah. Green Bull does not do what Akainu says. Shall we do battle then? No thanks, I'd rather not. Who the fuck is Akainu in charge of? Who the fuck? I think he's borderline, like... And what about Sword, too? Is Sword a thing that came up in the newer age of Marine? Like, how long has Sword been around for? Does anyone know? Yeah, Renji6778 says Green Bull's ideals align with Akainu's. Yeah, and even then, he doesn't just blindly follow everything Akainu says. This is Green Bull's introduction, which is him just disobeying Akainu, talking to Fujitora, who's blatantly disobeying Akainu. Akainu is not a firm leader. I mean, I'm sure he tries to be a firm leader, but he's not a firm leader. He also kills deserters. I'm not putting him right away in D because, like, he's not as willy-nilly in, like... These characters will just kill or harm or blatantly harm their subordinates for no real reason, right? Akainu will do it if he feels like reprimanding or punishment is due. So I'm going to keep him above this tier, but he falls in the category of just not good leaders. Suntory Chronicles says he tries to rule with fear and it doesn't work. After he tried to kill Kobe at Marine Ford, I lost all respect, and I'm not even a Marine. Making a vid about him soon on the channel. So you guys, if you want to check out Suntory Chronicles channels, you know, that's he's going to have a vid on it. New X7, thanks for the 2. Dragon Aokiji Fujitora versus Akainu Kizaru Rikogyu. Oh, you're saying that's the final battle lineups? I don't know about that. Aokiji versus Kizaru would be really cool, because Aokiji and Kizaru, even though they haven't had much interaction, they're two sides of the same coin. I did a whole video, or no, my Egghead analysis broke that down pretty in-depth. Fujitora versus Rikogyu could be really cool. Dragon versus Akainu, I don't know, though. That's an interesting idea. They see... Renji678 says they see him as a peer. I think I agree with that. I think it's very possible that, like, Sengoku with the long tenure, being a legend during Roger's era, etc., with Akainu being made Fleet Admiral, the first thing that happened was, like... literally the first thing that happened was, like, Aokiji was like, you're not my boss. You're not my boss. I will literally fight you. I will go to fisticuffs with you over this. And if you are made my boss, screw you. I'm just leaving. Kizaru listens to Akainu mostly from what he sees, but not to the point that he's not going to, like, talk shit to him if, like, Akainu pushes his buttons too much. Fujitora just does not give a shit about Akainu whatsoever. And then Green Bull, for whatever reason, he's, like, while he wants to get in good with Akainu, he said, not to the point that it's, like, he's going to fight Fujitora over it or whatever. So Akainu is not a good leader so far. And again, I'm curious about, do we have it established when Sword was formed? Because what if Sword was formed post Akainu's takeover? That would be a very damning indictment on Akainu's leadership. If, like, people were just like, we don't like the current Marine system so much that we're going to make a little rebel Marine system even within it. Does anyone know? Gecko Moria is actually not a bad leader. I think Gecko Moria is a pretty good leader. Zombies don't count. Zombies are part of Moria's power. They don't count. But he actually cares. It seemed like Perona wanted to go back to Moria. Moria showed up to retrieve Absalom, who's a giant piece of shit. Absalom and Hogbag did flee after Moria was defeated, though, so that he doesn't inspire that much loyalty. So I'm going to go ahead and put him in B tier. Anel was a terrible leader. Killed off the vast majority of his subordinates. Falls under here. And he literally didn't give a shit which of his subordinates... he didn't care if any of his subordinates made it to the final 5. He was just like, whoever is left on the island, you get to go with me. But he didn't care about anybody. He didn't give a fuck who it would be. Sengoku, I think, is a very good leader. Very, very good leader. I think Sengoku's S tier. Can somebody tell me why Sengoku might not be S tier? No, Sengoku's not. He doesn't listen in a lot of ways, right? So, like, I think, was it... let's see. He doesn't listen in a lot of ways. Around here, 496. No, 396. 396. Why'd this open up a whole new tab? Okay, let's see. So if we're looking at, like... Yeah, look. Okay, so this is Saul talking a bit. Buster Call, that's right, become one of the 5 admirals that will leave. They're only scholars, we don't have to go, blah, blah, blah. Simply want to understand history. Yeah, shut up and just follow orders. That's not good leadership, right? Regardless of the content of what Saul is saying, this is not good leadership. So, Sengoku, I think... He's wise, he's intelligent, he's competent. He is softer-hearted in some aspects, right? He is softer-hearted in some aspects. At the end of the day, and he's a good steady hand at the wheel of the Marines' ship. But it does seem like he's a little bit dismissive of his subordinates, which obviously inspires things like rebellion, as Saul did, right? So we're going to put Sengoku not quite at top tier. We're going to put Sengoku... I think Sengoku falling here... Should Sengoku be A or B? I haven't given you guys polls really here. Okay. Two supers. JWP, thanks for the 10. I think you can assume Sword existed pre-time skip because of X Drake. That's a really good point. Sword did exist probably pre-time skip. If it didn't exist pre-time skip, then X Drake would have had to have betrayed the Marines and then somehow become a Sword agent after. That's a really good point. That's a very good point. Or no, could it have meant that X Drake was a Sword agent, or was just a general double agent already in advance, and then later on signed up as a Sword agent? That would be a weird way to do it. Yeah, so I guess Sword existed beforehand. Okay. Yeah, okay, we can put Sengoku in A. We can keep him in A. Leo, thanks for the 5. Sengoku showed change, though. At the end of Marine Forward, the world government tell him not to send bounty posters out. Sengoku screams anger, doubting them, chapter 581. I just think that's more so a reflection that he's... I don't know if that's change. I think that's more so just a reflection that he was never, like, a black and white character. Like, he wasn't ever just downright, like, absolutist. You know, like, let's say, maybe Green Bull or something. Like, I'll do whatever the Celestial Dragons say. But at the same time, Sengoku would go along with things and really shut down sort of ideas of dissent, but he does have his own sort of, his own sort of threshold on when that goes too far. For example, him just taking in Corazon the whole time, that was something that probably, that's him stepping out of his bounds in a certain way, right? So he was always just a more nuanced character, right? But he's not a perfect character, and I think that's why he's one of the more interesting ones. Monte, thanks for the 10. The only other time I see dragons stressing is the Sabo news, but imagine reviewing plans with your second in command, only for him to go MIA and show up in the news, aura farming over a dead body a month later. I guess it's just that I can't really... Like, I'm just going to say straight up, I can't imagine some of these other characters having that... I think Chapter 1 Shanks, Chapter 1 Shanks had that gag moment when Luffy disappeared. He was like, oh my god, what's happening? But Shanks of today, I really don't think... Like, he's portrayed almost so wise and sage-like. Like, almost nothing, no crazy event, nothing seems to faze him. He's never thrown by anything. I don't know. Like, it just feels like something feels a little bit less competent. Not competent, but like... It feels like Dragon is thrown or shaken or confused by things. It's just a feels thing, and you can say it only happened this time and this time, but then to be fair, we've only seen... We don't see Dragon that often either. So it's like when it's happening, 50% of his appearances, I don't know. He was stressed. I think he was stressed during Vegapunk's speech. He was stressed... As far as I recall, when Sabo was explaining stuff post-Reverie, I think he was stressed when he was reading the Sabo news. I just don't know if he just feels like he's stressed somewhat frequently to me. I might be wrong, though. JWP says, Morj, you missed my other super. I'm sorry, man. Let me see. Let me make sure I'm not missing any other supers. JWP says, hold on. Yeah. Miracle Arrow says, thanks for the 5. Knocking Dragon off of S tier only because he's not calm is crazy. He almost checks everything else. Let me respond to this first. It's not just because of that. I think the other thing is that we've just seen certain things from all... Like, Dragon will likely be S. I think Dragon will likely be S by the time the story's done. I think we need to see a bit more from him. Because the big thing with all of these characters is that we've gotten to see them more in terms of their leadership role. And I think we've gotten to see... more of how sacrificial they will be for for their subordinates, or like there's greater displays or speeches or moments from these characters that kind of like go above and beyond and solidify like, yeah, this guy is a great leader. This guy is somebody that really looks out for and cares for his subordinates. And this guy is just somebody that like anybody, you, me, whoever in real life would like, I'd like to have them at the captain of the ship, basically at the helm of the ship, right? I think all of these guys have shown something along those lines. Dragon, we just haven't seen enough yet, right? So we've seen traces of how reliable of a leader he is based on how the faith the revolutionaries have in him and everything, but he hasn't played a huge role in the story just yet. So I think once he plays a role in the story and we get to actually see him in action and see him have some of these sort of like very moving or impactful moments as a leader, the way a lot of these other guys have, I would put him up in S. But I just need a little bit more out of him before I'm putting him in S. Continuing on. JWP, your other comment was, thanks for the 5, by the way. I can't see how Beige greater than Law, though. Beige is just Law, but did not succeed as much, and his plans weren't as well prepared. I think Beige is just more of a unit with his squad, with his family. I think he's just more of a unit. I think I really, really enjoyed or appreciated this scene where it was like, let me pull it up. It was like, probably around here. I think the Big Father scene was really good. They all get into the castle. Hold on. Where's Beige's scene? Hold on. We have a scene here. I swear it exists. I swear it exists. Here. Give me a second here. All right. I don't care what happens to your people, but I do care about my men and the wife and son that I love, and I ain't about to let them die. Oh, honey, Godfather, etc. There's only one way to ensure that everyone survives. The shape, blah, blah, blah. So that was a scene that I thought was very strong. Obviously, Law has similar sentiments towards his crew. But the one thing I appreciate about Beige and his crew is that I just think that they work as a unit a bit more. Like, he's got his consigliere, he's got his, like, right, like, there's just a bit more structure to the way that his whole crew works that, like, it really feels like it's all in unison, and it really feels like Beige is, like, it's almost like a little bit of a mini Whitebeard situation where Beige is, like, the father of this group, and he's, you know, like, they all move with him. Law, the only reason that he's not here is literally just because he is very, very independent from the rest of his crew. Right? Like, very independent from the rest of the crew, tends to leave them behind, and doesn't really work with them as a unit in general. So while they have a lot of faith and confidence in him, he kind of operates without them in general, and kind of, like, will have them do something small on the sides. Whereas Beige, I just feel like he is a leader, and he's very entrenched in, like, him and his, like, literally his crew is part of his fighting ability, in fact. Like, he can't fully take action without his crew, you know? Also, he takes a lot of time to, like, dress them nice and make sure they have nice things and be taken care of and shit, you know? Just something to consider about. Continuing on. Biden McGar says Beige stabbed. Yeah, I was thinking about that, which is that in his introduction, he stabbed one of his subordinates. My only comment to that is I don't think Oda had Beige's concept at that point in time. Because even if you go back and read how Beige talked and acted in the Sabaody arc, it is very different concept-wise than what we get nowadays. So I'm viewing Beige in terms of, like, I'm giving Oda some slack in that I don't think he really knew what the character is supposed to be at that point in time. If we were to include that, because it is canon, and it happened, obviously. It's canon and it happened. It wouldn't be E. It would obviously not be E, but he would dock. He would be docked somewhere. But that Beige scene is just so different, and it's kind of like, if you just go back and read, like, the initial Supernova stuff, like, it just felt like Beige was almost a throwaway character for Oda at that point in time. Oda straight up said he didn't really have a plan in mind for a lot of these Supernova. I think the Beige that we got later on is straight up kind of like supposed to be a different character. So that's a shitty excuse, and it opens up a a slippery slope where you could make that argument for a lot of other characters. Like, well, then why do we discount this for this character but not this, etc.? I think Beige, it's almost fair just because of Oda's own interview quotes and the fact that Beige had, like, out of all the supernovas, the least screen time in the Sabaody arc, or like in pre-time skip in general. And he just acted and looked and talked like a different, not looked, but like he was just kind of treated like a different character at that point in time. I think Beige post-time skip is a different version of him, different concept. Again, slippery slope, but I'm the one doing the tier list, so I'm kind of going by what, like, my perception of what Oda's trying to do with the character is. Could be wrong. Henchme976, thanks for the 2. You need to do VV fast to beat the allegations. To beat the allegations? What allegations? That Oda doesn't write good female leaders? Is that right? Because we've just got Big Mom and Boa. Yeah, Oda really... Okay, so let's do VV. Let's get VV up in there. Yeah, let's say VV's S. Pretty straightforward, not much to say. I think VV's better than Cobra just because she's got more... She's put her heart out there even more than Cobra. And she's, I think, the Luffy teaching scene, etc. I think she's just supposed to be more than... This is not ranked. This is actually not ranked. This is, I don't know, you could put VV1. I don't know. Not ranked. I think there's a bit of a distinction in that these guys are not as good as... I don't know. None of it's ranked. It doesn't really matter. At the top, we'll probably do some re-ranking later. It doesn't matter. But I'll put VV front and center just to have VV there. Because every woman is D. That's not my fault. Oda wrote these characters. Oda wrote Big Bob as, like, this woman who basically, like, freely murders her own children all the time and, like, basically explains straight up in chapter 900 that the whole utopia that she's creating is dystopic as fuck and no one's allowed to ever leave her, which is very, very dark. So Big Mom obviously in here. This is just a tier for everybody that treats their subordinates like shit. Boa Hancock does fall in here as well. If they don't treat their subordinates like shit, then they get ranked higher. This is basically just you're a bad leader, right? This is you're a fine leader, or in Doflamingo's case, you're very polarizing, depending on how you you swing wildly one way or another, right? Continuing on, Kid. I don't know what Kid. Is Kid an okay leader? He's very empathetic. Like, he cares about Killer. He does care about his crew. I don't think he's smart. So it's kind of like a Luffy situation where just, like, really bad decision making. I don't think he's smart, but his crew doesn't rein him in as much as Luffy's crew reins him in as far as... It seems like Killer is who he really relies on to add some logic, etc. Stormfox, thanks for the 2. Carrot should be on this list technically. I mean, I could just put her on and, like, drop her to, like, D tier because she has no leadership moments whatsoever throughout the story. So I wouldn't even put her in C. I would just put her in D because there's no, like, she's not as bad as these characters technically. I might make some separate tier that's slightly above D, but still below C for Carrot. Is Kid bad? Kid got his crew killed. He did get his crew killed. Yeah, so really bad decision making. I'm going to put him in the same tier as Luffy. Just you want a bit more intelligence there. Okay, Odin was not a good leader. I'm going to put him here. That was kind of Odin's one failing as a character, as was implied. Like, he just wasn't... He wasn't a good leader. He didn't even want to lead. He shirked his duties frequently, which got all of Wano fucked over. The Scabbards were loyal to him because of his strength, largely. Because of his strength and just his character. So he was able to inspire loyalty. That's true, but it's just not enough to get him past the, like, to higher than just this tier, you know? Arlong was actually a good leader. Arlong was a good leader. Arlong might be at least... I think he's a very good leader. He cared about his crew. He got very, very upset as they damaged his crew. He was smart. He had a plan. Good decision making. Um, what's Arlong missing? Drinkwater says, well, he's teaching racism to his people, so I don't know, man. Yeah, but we're not going to get into their moral, like, philosophical teachings. That's just too much of a... Then we get into, like, okay, well, who preaches a better philosophy? Like, Shanks to his subordinates or, like, Whitebeard to his subordinates. It's, like, its own whole thing. I think... Is Arlong A or S? S or A? I think he was very good to his crew. Very good to his crew. I think he's S. I think he's S. Right? Vitamin Gar says if Nami counts, you treat her like dirt, so C, maybe D. Ooh, yeah, Nami. Yeah, he did treat Nami really bad. Nami's tricky because I don't... No, she's a member of the Arlong Pirates. She's a member of the Arlong Pirates. But he's the only one he treated bad, so I'm going to put him in A. Because it's just one. Beyond that, he'd be an S. So she's like the black mark that drops him from S to A. Okay. Blackbeard is in C. Because he's willing to let his crew die and everything like that. Like, he made that clear. And, like, he doesn't have a great fondness for his crew or anything, but like it's also kind of like that's kind of the deal with them. Like they're cool with that, I guess, to some degree. Like they all know what they're in for. None of them have any none of them are under any illusion that Blackbeard really loves them or anything. And ultimately he does have a fairly effective plan for them. I don't think he's as bad as these guys. I don't think he's as bad as these guys who at least not proven to be yet. At least not proven to be yet. Khan Best says technically Arlong was ruler of the island, which includes the villagers. He was the mafia boss that like extorted and ran the island, which is a little bit different. It's not like Doflamingo who straight up made himself king, and in a manner where it's like, I am genuinely your king. You are like, this is my kingdom. You are my people that I'm in charge of now, right? Like this is like I'm your king. Like he had that whole opening ceremony, etc. The people of Dressrosa celebrate Doflamingo as their king. It's very different. Arlong was more so like he was just the boss that really extorted the. Am I being too technical here? Let's see, because when Arlong first shows up, it's probably chapter like probably 79. No, I'm one off. No, two off, really. Still be under my control, but it's not the same thing. That's not the same thing. He's not making himself the mayor of this place or like the king, etc. That's different. Like Doflamingo genuinely wanted to rule that island as its king. Arlong doesn't make any decisions for the people or like any governance stuff outside of taxing them, which is very different. And taxing them is basically just like, it's just being a bully and like going over and being like, give me your lunch money once a month or whatever. That's different. Lola, I don't remember. I think she's kind of a good leader. I don't remember. I'm just going to put her in B. I don't fucking remember. I think Lola's kind of a good leader. She might be in A. She might be in B. Mr. Nine says Blackbeard nearly got them all killed and Impel down. Yeah, Blackbeard's like quite the gambler, but I think his crew also like understands that he's a gambler. So it's kind of like a tricky scenario. Buggy's tricky. Buggy's C. Because if you go to like, because he'll ditch his crew at the end of the day. I'm pretty sure that was established. Let's see. I fucking hate some of Viz translations. This is just embarrassing. Are you guys reading this shit? Now, this is some grade A bullpucky. Bullpucky. Who talks like this? Anyway, continuing on. And so we're going to fight like hell. That's what we'll do. Yeah, that's our chairman Buggy. Now go out there and show what we're made of. Yar, in the meantime, I'm going to skedaddle. Yeah, so he can't actually be a good leader because he just abandoned the rest of this crew. They are ultimately his tools. He doesn't really whatever. And then I'd say even if you look at even if you look in terms of like his core crew, the group that his core crew, right? Like his core subordinates. Let's see. Where's Buggy show up here? Yeah, okay, I actually nailed this character, this chapter. Okay, so we made it this far. There's nothing we can do. So this is when Buggy's in Impel Down, and they're like, we have to save Captain Buggy, who got imprisoned in Impel Down. And then she explains, we can't do it. He's like, we can't do anything. Buggy will get executed. There's no way Captain Buggy is so they've got a lot of fate. Do as you please, but I'll be keeping the big top. You could take the boat. Captain Buggy, thank you for everything everything you've done until now. We'll never forget the debt we owe you. We hope you have a good death. Farewell. So, like, even the level of confidence that he inspires in his crew, it's very shallow at the end of the day. Some of them he's able to get to buy in more, but a lot of them, like his core crew, no. And then on top of that, like, remember, Hadrudin, all of Buggy's top performers left him for somebody better pretty quickly. And then even just recently, Crocodile and Mihawk are basically not treating him with any sort of respect or as their leader. So I know that it's funny as a meme to say Buggy's a great leader or something like that, or a very inspirational leader, but there's a lot of flaws to that argument. And then on top of that, because it only works on like a select number of people, it doesn't even work that well. And then on top of that, actually caring about and looking out for your subordinates is an important quality of leadership. Ditching them at the first chance makes you a bad leader, so we're going to put Buggy a lot lower. Buggy is arguably... He's not quite D-bad. Although he did treat a lot of his crew members bad in the first... Yeah, he's bottom of C, I think. He's bottom of C. Alright, continuing on. Orochi, just a bad guy. Wiper. I think Wiper's a great leader, but he's kind of mean sometimes. He can be kind of a little mean. I'm going to put him in A. Dragon we had twice. That's my mistake. Crocodile. Crocodile was a nasty ass, like he was a nasty dude. Like he was ready, like he makes clear from the beginning, that's his final conversation with Nico Robin. From the beginning, I never trusted anyone. Kills Nico Robin. But he's changed. I think he's arguably changed as a leader, because I think his dynamic with Mr. 1 is more trusting. Before he would like kill Mr. 3, kill whoever didn't listen, like a very harsh leader. I think post-time skip Crocodile is very different. Post-time skip Crocodile might be... Let's put him here and let's see more of what he does. Let's put him here and see more of what he does. I still don't believe he cares about his subordinates or he makes his subordinates' lives that much better. Iceberg was a great leader. Iceberg was low-key a great leader. He never had to do anything where he like super-duper risked his life for his subordinates. So... The greatest leaders really put their subordinates over. Beige might be low. Beige is barely clinging on to S. I'm going to drop Beige to A. How about I drop Beige to A? I'll drop Beige to A. It just doesn't feel right for him to be up here with all these truly good characters. Iceberg's A as well. Yeah. We can count the Beige stabbing his subordinate with a knife thing too, or fork. Caesar, asshole, easy. Koza. The problem with Koza is that he was so misguided. He was genuinely the problem for all of the Alabasta arc alongside Crocodile. The But at the same time, he was a good leader. He got everybody together. Koza is also, by the way, an interesting character because for some reason he's only human level. He's only normal human level. By that I mean, generally speaking, these type of characters, like these rebel figures of an island, right? Like Dalton was very strong relative to the time that we were at in One Piece, right? Like he was actually very strong for that era. It was implied that he could beat Wapol himself if Wapol didn't have the special armory, right? And he was stronger than Chess, Kuromarimo. So Dalton, very strong. You get to Skypiea, Wiper, very, very strong. You get to Dressrosa, you have like Kyros, right? Generally speaking, the rebel figure of the island is very, very strong. Koza, for whatever reason, Oda randomly wrote as just human level for no real reason, which is interesting. Yeah, his lack of info isn't his fault. I think he's A tier. He could arguably be S tier. Yeah, he got shot like 5 times, but I'm saying in terms of like a combatant, like in terms of combatants, like it was never even implied that he was like Chaka or Pell level. Like he was just a dude, you know? I'll put Koza A. I feel like is there an argument for him not being S? Yeah, like ignore whether or not his information was correct because he was manipulated. I think he could have negotiated better with Cobra. I think that's one. He could have negotiated better with Cobra. Um, Cared about the nation. He did ultimately listen to Vivi. Koza wasn't a good strategist. That's true. His plan was just like, let's all discharge the capital. Okay. I'm going to put Frankie in... I want to put Frankie in S, but Frankie's not very wise, so I'm going to put him in A. I think, actually, Loki, I think Frankie's pretty dumb. So due to stupidity, I'm going to put him in B. I think Frankie's pretty dumb. As a leader, I think he's kind of dumb. In terms of character and all that stuff, he's really good. Magellan, I think Magellan's fine, competent enough. He was an inspiring leader for Hannibal at the end, and he did a good job guarding Impel Down and everything. There's just not that much to work with for the character. Oh shit, I think we're done. I think that was it. Yeah, I think every character that's here in S tier is basically the right combination of like very good and kind-hearted and care about their subordinates and put their subordinates above them. So that's number one. They inspire lots of loyalty and confidence from their subordinates in turn, right? That's number two. They are smart. They're generally all smart, very capable, competent decision makers. They show that across the board. So you can trust that if they're in charge, they're going to be making good decisions and everything like that. And then they promote, I think, tight groups, camaraderie, whatever. Calm, confident, and crisis, all of them fit that. Think strategic thinking, they're all good enough at that to varying levels. Yeah, I think we got all that. Jinbei, the tricky thing is I would like to put Jinbei. I didn't think we saw enough of him as leader of the Sun Pirates because that was mostly off screen that he was leader of the Sun Pirates. Frankie we see in good amount of capacity as leader of the Frankie family between Water 7 and East Lobby. Oh, Ivankov. Ivankov, I would put. I think Ivankov would actually be an S tier leader. I think Ivankov's a little zany, but that doesn't mean that Ivankov's not smart. I think Ivankov might be a little over from the Revolutionary Army meetings that we've been seeing lately. Ivankov is like a little bit like over enthusiastic or emotional about some. I don't know if Ivankov's the smartest, wisest hand that I'd want at the wheel, but Ivankov's at least A. Ivankov was portrayed as very competent and good in decision making in Impel Down, though. Kuma, it's hard to say. I don't know how I'd rate Kuma. Sabo for D tier because he's a bum. We need to see more of Sabo in leadership. But I like this. This tier is basically, to clarify, all intelligent, wise, very kind-hearted, sacrificial, inspire loyalty / confidence in subordinates. Yeah, those are the main things. Good decision making, strategy, etc. Yeah. Then these are all close but have some sort of flaw or something like that, or some sort of ding against them. These guys are all fine leaders, but then maybe there's something polarizing about them, like Doflamingo, or they're maybe too dumb, like Frankie, or maybe we just don't see enough, like Momonosuke or whatever. These guys are weak. These guys are not good leaders, basically not good leaders, and then these guys are basically horrible. Like if they're in charge of you, you have a high chance of being killed by them. And then finally, this one is guaranteed you will be killed by this dude. I'm saying thanks for being a Pirate King tier member for 13 months, man. Yo, Morj, do you think Kaido is the worst villain in the story? If not, then who? Worst villain? I don't think Kaido's the worst villain. I think Kaido has some scruples compared to some other villains. Like, I think you can even look at this list. I think the shit Caesar's done is worse, like the children. I think the shit that Orochi's done. Like, Kaido's not even the worst villain in Wano. Orochi's a worst villain. Worst villain. Yeah, you can just look at this list. Orochi, Spandam, like, literally genociding, not Spandam doing that, but, like, I think Kaido has some sense of honor and respect for certain characters and views things as, like, oh, I shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that. I think the further and further you go with, like, characters who, like an Enel. Enel doesn't have a should or shouldn't in his mind. It's just whatever I want, whatever I feel like. There's no sense of value for human life. There's no sense of value for anything beyond himself. For him, the world is his to do with as he pleases, and there's just no sense of like empathy, restraint, anything, because those things don't occur to him. Like he literally views everyone as ants, right? So Enel, I think, is still the worst character we've had in One Piece because it's just the most extreme form of that mentality. And then I think, yeah, I think this is a good list. I think this is a solid list. Oh, worst written. No, I don't think he's the worst. Worst written is tricky because, like, there's some villains that are just really simple, and then it's like, well, they're just simple, boring villains. I think Kaido's the most frustratingly written villain in One Piece for me because he's the one that attempts to do the most complex things and actually have some depth to him, and then it falls, like, it's half-assed all the way, you know? So if I were to say Horty's a very simple villain to the point that it's boring, even if that's the point, it's like it's simple to the point that it's so boring and one-dimensional, it's like, okay, whatever. I still view Horty as a shittier villain than Kaido, even if I get that it's like, no, the point is that he's supposed to be one-dimensional. I get it. But if the point is that it's just a really fucking shitty villain, like, that doesn't make him interesting or dynamic or anything like it doesn't add anything to it. You're just explaining why it's a shitty villain, right? It's like, well, actually, the point is supposed to be such a dumb, boring villain. It's like, okay, good point. Point made. Anyway. Like, Kaido's more interesting than Horty, right? There's more layers to him. It's just all of those layers are half-assed. So it's like, what's worse at the end of the day? I would still argue that Horty is worse. But Kaido's, out of the villains that had potential to be really good, Kaido's probably the most frustrating of the bunch. I'm saying I got the clarification. I mean, worst isn't worst written, lol. Kaido's probably the most frustratingly written villain for me in the story. I would say Hordy is like, for the fact that he's a villain, the primary villain of a 50 chapter arc, it's just kind of insane. But there's no real flaws to his character writing other than just like, it's so fucking basic, it's pretty much stupid. So I would still argue that Hordy, to me, by my standards, is the worst written villain. I think you do need to do something more with, you can't just say that's the point. You need to do something more with the villain. Like, even if the point was that Hordy didn't have any personal experience with humans or whatever, and still turned out that way, you can do more. You can add more layers to make it a more interesting villain, at least in terms of personality, characteristics, yada yada. Literally just making him a blank slate, just generic whatever, I think was not a good decision. Anuj Agarwal, thanks for being a Yonko tier member for 28 months, man. Joining the stream late, but I think Luffy should be A tier. Inspiration in a story based on willpower is paramount, plus mentored Momo/Tama/Bonnie. So I think in the context of One Piece, Luffy is portrayed as a phenomenal leader. In the context of One Piece. Because you missed the start of the stream, I think you're missing a lot of context. We are not judging just based on the context of One Piece. We're basing more so a little bit based on, like, let's apply this character type to real life. How would you feel about this person as your leader, as your boss, your country's leader, your military platoon leader, things like that? Any sort of format like that, I think as soon as that's the situation, you pretty much, or even literally being the captain of your ship in the real world, in any sort of actual context, we pretty much determined that Luffy would be not even just a bad leader, but basically just like not a normal mentally functioning individual. And not in like a quirky neurodivergent way, but just like a catastrophically bad person to have in charge of anything. So I think that in the context of this stream, you could pretty easily understand why Luffy's where he is. We did talk about and determine that there is one potential context where Luffy could be good as a leader. If he's like the star of your basketball teams, like the best player, he's probably going to be like very emotional and be able to like emotionally pump up your other players really well, which sometimes is just what you need. Simple stuff to get your team pumped up or whatever. That can work. You still wouldn't be good as a coach because you can't do X's and O's for jack shit. All right, everybody. Good list. Good tier list. I feel pretty confident about this. I think the simple way I'd look at it is like, who would I want as my leader? Who would I want in charge of my country, my military platoon, my company, whatever? I'd want somebody like these people. And ultimately, I think if we want to vote on best, I would say, here, let's do a vote on best. Let's do a quick vote on best. We're only going to vote out S tier. Best leader in One Piece. And I think we're putting in real world context. So who would you want in charge of? The thing is, it's going to depend based on what, right? Like, I wouldn't necessarily want Whitebeard running a country. I'd want Vivi or Cobra. But in other contexts, like maybe as boss of my company, I wouldn't mind Whitebeard or something like that, you know? So let's start with these four, and then we'll do the other three, and then we'll put the winners against each other. All right, fair stuff. I think that is a perfectly valid. I think if I wanted someone running my country, I would agree with Vivi. All right, I think Whitebeard is a close second for me as well. All right, I'm going to end this, and then I'm going to do this, which is best leader, second batch, Smoker, Shanks. Dhiraj Singh, thanks for your first super ever, and I appreciate the comment. Hi, Morj. Love your videos and your analysis videos. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming through the stream the first time. I hope you're enjoying it so far. All right. Smoker, Shanks. Okay, so it looks like Shanks is taking it. I would agree. I think Smoker's a little hard-assed for me, personally. It's very strength skewed. No, I would disagree because I think a lot of these characters aren't that strong, and Vivi won the previous poll, so let's do it one more time. Not a lot of these characters, but like Vivi's not strong. Dalton is basically fodder level at this point in the story. Cobra, Fisher Tiger is fine, I think. Smoker, All right. Best leader final bout. I'll give you guys my rankings after this. Oh, this is tight. Get your votes in. All right. We ready? We ready? Vivi wins best leader. Vivi wins best leader. Whoops. Fuck. All right. So according to chat, Vivi is the best leader. Here is how I would do it. I think I personally... Anuj Agarwal, thanks for the 5-man. I want to go Shanks, but he's a bit too mysterious for me. Want a better communicator. I agree. Well, I think Shanks is a good communicator, though. Oh, you're saying like communicator to you as a subordinate. I think he's a very good communicator in other scenarios. Like we've seen him negotiate down so many situations. Here's how I would do it. I think my leader of choice would be... I don't actually have Vivi number 1, just because it depends on the scenario. I think in terms of running a country, I think I'd want Vivi. I think in a lot of other scenarios, company, running a company or military scenario, I don't think I'd want Vivi as my leader or coach of a team, because I think a Vivi is a little bit too idealistic in a lot of ways. Like this was what her and Luffy's conflict came down to in the desert, right? Which was like Vivi can almost be too naive and idealistic and heart-based in some scenarios. So I wouldn't want her in every situation. I think for country leader, I'd want Vivi, because that's having the important values is the most important thing there. I think in most situations, I'd take Whitebeard. Cobra, I actually dock a lot of points. So I put him in S just because I didn't really want to argue. I think Cobra definitely could have handled the... I think Cobra could have done a much better job handling the rising tensions in Alabasta. I think his conversations with Koza were a little bit too patronizing. I don't think he negotiated that whole bout, like that whole thing, that well. I think that's where Vivi succeeded, where Cobra couldn't. I don't think Cobra did that well there. Smoker is a good leader, but I think he's a little bit too harsh for my personal style of like what I want to see. I think these characters have a nicer heart to them, where I feel like I could communicate or talk more openly with them. I'd move Shanks forward as well. I've got Dalton a little bit below these three because I feel like Dalton... I never got a great sense of wisdom from Dalton, whereas with these three, I feel a greater sense of wisdom from this trio of characters. I feel a greater sense of wisdom. Like, I think that there's more, just sage advice or sage leadership I would get from these three characters. Again, Vivi, I think a little bit too idealistic and naive in some scenarios. I also, from what we've seen in the story, she will get, like, just character-wise, because these two are Yonko, so it's not really fair, but, like, character-wise, she does get stressed out more easily than even, like, the other Straw Hats, just because she's not used to those sort of scenarios quite as much. So I'd put Vivi here. Smoker's just a little too tough and gruff, I think, even though he cares about his subordinates. Fisher Tiger, I just need to see more from. So that section of the story is a little murky to me. He was a good leader, and he was able to unite some very different groups, which is very challenging. I think he came from a place of anger a bit too much, though. I think I'm going to keep Fisher Tiger here. So who would I want in... Bitey McGar says the thing about Dalton is that he's just a dude, pretty much. Yeah, that's true. Vivi is an extreme pacifist. Vivi was too cowardly to put lives on line. Yeah, so to me, there are, like, that's the thing. I think that both in story and out of story, in story, while Vivi is portrayed as a great leader, I think what people forget is that it's, like, the scene where she coached Luffy is not the only moment that's supposed to matter. There are flaws that she's supposed to overcome as well in the Alabasta arc, which, to be fair, she does seem to overcome, too. But the idea is that she's flawed as well. Like, her idealism is very, it's very commendatory, but, like, it's not meant to be perfect. Whereas I don't think Whitebeard or Shanks have been portrayed in story as having flaws to their leadership style. Now, while what we're mostly talking about is out of story, so like real world context, I think a lot of that still does apply. Where I don't really see yet why I would not like Whitebeard or Shanks to be the boss of my company, I find Shanks to be a bit more empathetic than Whitebeard. Although Whitebeard is also very. No, we've seen Whitebeard can get like grumpy and like angry at points easier, like even when he's talking to Roger and Odin. So I feel like Shanks is just a little bit better in terms of my preference, in terms of like leadership style, where it's just very, very even keel, generally very empathetic or whatever, but still generally wise and generally able to make good decisions and keep a level head in crisis, etc. Whitebeard might be like a little bit, throw his weight around a little bit more, or be a bit more of a tough leader. My personal, this is very subjective at this point, right? Because like you could argue anything, like you could view Smoker as like, yeah, that's the type of person that we just need in charge, like just to the point, very cut and dry, direct, still cares about his subordinates and his people, but very cerebral, very sharp decision making, etc. Like I would trust Smoker's decision making over a lot of these other characters, but like I'm talking about my personal preference for like who'd be my boss, who'd I'd want running the maybe country again. I'd pick Vivi, but who I'd want boss running a military platoon, things like that. Running a military platoon, I'd want Whitebeard probably. Actually, Shanks might be a little bit. I don't know. I think overall I find Shanks the most well-rounded. I think you could slot him in the most stuff, and he'd be like either the first, second, or third best option. I see some areas where I wouldn't want Vivi as the leader, some areas where I personally wouldn't want Whitebeard as the leader. It's a little complicated. Rayo Chia, good to see you. Thanks for being a Yonko Cheer member for 27 months. Oda's going to reveal the One Piece before Morj reveals the Wano video. That's not happening. Come on now. This is my personal preferences at this point. Anuj Agrawal, thanks to the 2. Martians, Death Beam, Earth, give me Fisher Tiger. If Martians had their Death Beam trained at the Earth, and we had to just select a world leader to dictate what our next steps are, I would pick... I think in that situation, I would pick a Shanks or Whitebeard. Even if you remove their strength, I would pick... I think I'd pick Shanks. I think he would pick a decision that is either... Because he's prone to either picking negotiating or using force in the right situations. So I think he's the perfect balance of that. I think Shanks would be good. I think if you pick like Dragon, then he'd just be like formulating a plan on how to destroy them. I think it depends, which might be the right answer. But I think some of these guys might tunnel vision. I think Vivi would default to like trying to negotiate. I think Dalton is too dumb to figure something out. Smoker would try and figure out a way to fight them. Fisher Tiger would definitely pick a way to try and fight them. That's what he did against the world government. Whitebeard, I don't know if negotiation would be his forte. I think Shanks would I think he'd pick a balanced choice between like either do we need to negotiate or do we need to have a show of force, what we need to do. If I were to take that question seriously. 2 more and then I'm wrapping up stream. Isis1155, thanks for the 5. Please explain how Shanks is S over Dragon. We've seen the same amount of leadership from both of them. Their subordinates respect them. What difference? I think we've seen much more out of Shanks than we have out of Dragon at this point. I think Dragon, I actually want to see scenes of him. Like scenes and moments. Like notable scenes and moments from him where we can get a little bit more of his character in like high stress situations and stuff. Like Dragon's been at a desk so far, right? He's been at a desk. I think we've got a lot of iconic moments where Shanks steps up to protect his subordinates, like we just got in Elbaf, where he comes to like, or where he's leading his group into battle, like we got in Marineford, etc. I think that, or where he's got everyone organized together, even Chapter 1. With Dragon, I think the potential is there for him to be an S. I think we actually need to see those things outside of him like having these conversations at his desk or like just roundtable meetings with his revolutionaries. So Dragon, I think once we actually get his section in the story, we will get all that. And maybe by the end of all this, we're saying Dragon's the best leader in One Piece. I'm just going based on what we've got right now. I think all of these characters have certain scenes that put them over the top in terms of really getting to see them act as a leader with everybody in certain like high stakes conflicts, stuff like that. Marzek now, thanks for being a member for 23 months. Much love, Morj. Hope you've been well. I've been great, man. Thank you. All right, everybody. All right. Oh, Chinho Wong says Shanks hasn't lost any crew. Dragon lost tons. That is not a fair comparison, though, because the goals are totally different. Shanks is all about protecting what he's got, right? Shanks has a subordinate crew, subordinate fleets, subordinate territories, etc. He's all about protecting him and his circle of friends. Dragon is a totally different operation. I think that's why sometimes people criticize Dragon, because it's like applying totally different standards to him that don't make sense. Dragon's goal is uprising, overthrowing, right? Uprising, overthrowing. You would be better off comparing Dragon to like Wiper. Wiper at the start of his rebellion says, we are all in this to overthrow God, essentially, Enno. We're fighting for freedom. Some of us are going to drop and fall in this battle. We have to keep going, right? Totally different. Dragon is proactive. Everything that he's created is with the intent for them all to direct their energies towards attacking the world, freeing the world government, dethroning, winning a battle, right? Shanks' whole thing is not getting into those conflicts, not getting into those fights, just protecting the circle that he's got. Totally different goals. You cannot judge based on that. All right, everybody. We are going to call it here. Okay, Shanks hasn't lost any of his Yonko Islands. Yeah, because his first priority is protecting his Yonko Islands. That's his only priority. Dragon could lose everything. It doesn't matter. Their only goal, like the whole reason they've created this whole thing, is to destroy the core at the core of the Celestial Dragons, right? That's it. That's their goal. That's why he's brought everyone together. He's not bringing everyone together saying, like, you guys are my subordinate islands and I'm going to protect you. That's not a thing. He's not, like, taking them in as his, like, family, like Whitebeard, or taking them in as, like, his little babysitting kids, like Shanks. Like, he's bringing them in to point them to go run into battle and die, right? Which is very different. He's not lying to them or anything about that, but they're coming in as soldiers to give their lives for a war. Totally different. Totally different. All right. All right, everybody. Yeah? You ready? Last thing I'll say on this is just like, it would be almost like comparing never mind. I'm not gonna get into it because I'm going to go into a rant. All right, everybody. Thanks for coming in. I think we've got a good lineup of a lot of the best leaders in One Piece. It's a shame our protagonist ranks so low, but thank you all for coming through. And yeah, this was a fun stream, and we got 2 more weeks of One Piece chapters.